Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NACL promotion tournament for the Spring 2025 split presented to you by The Real Cost. If you're just coming from the LCS finals, well, we've got just the same here for you. More chaotic League of Legends, just like we saw at the end of that series. We've got two teams fighting for one final spot in the Challengers League for 2025. And of course, with all the changes happening, that spot will become more and more valuable as we look forward into the next year. My name is Grapes, closing out the promotion tournament with my good friend Joshi. Joshi, we've made it all the way to the last day of the tournament. We've got Polestar, we've got AoE Esports. I don't know if either of us expected any of those teams to be here today, but here we are regardless.
I definitely didn't coming through. Everyone I talked to, including people in the Pulse camp from the very beginning, were saying, yeah, this team, we're going to go 0-2. We're playing with a substitute. There's not really a great chance of us making it all the way, but doesn't seem like they have a whole lot of pressure on their shoulders. But now all the pressure is going to be mounting because they've gotten a lot farther than anyone expected them to, and they are one series away from making their way into the Challengers League for 2025.
And, you know, if you get into that Challengers League, there's a lot of players that have gone through the NACL that have made it up to the LCS. And, hey, even a couple of them on that stage. You saw Masu, you saw Quad. They were just here in the last year or two on FlyQuest Challengers, which is another team in this league. Busio as well. I mean, so many players that have gone through the NACL ecosystems. And some of these guys going to try to be that as well. But let's take a look at the bracket before we get into the nitty-gritty. Talk about where these teams have gone, who these teams have played before we get into this final series for today. Once again, the bottom two teams from the NACL and the top four teams from the NACLQ all went up to match against each other. We've went through the upper brackets, we went to the lower brackets, and we have this one best of 5 left between AoE and Pulse.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch because I think a lot of people were expecting Dragoons Goons in particular to be a team that were going to make it through. They were really looked at as the team to beat. And the Ducky Getters, a fan favorite that really came after all of our hearts right off the bat, unfortunately falling relatively early on in the bracket at the same time. But CCG also most recently with a 3-0 win over the other NACL team in AoE. Now as we take another look at it, AoE has their second chance. By going through the upper bracket, they do get another life. They just need to win one more series here. And now AoE versus Polestar is definitely not a matchup that anybody was really expecting to see as to how people are going to be making it into the Challengers League. But Grapes, I feel like that's been a very common sentiment throughout the last several splits that we've had this promotion tournament.
I mean, this is the 4th promotion tournament that we have had here, and of course, every single time, or 2 out of 3 times, I should say, there's the team that comes in as the 4th seed from the qualifiers. They don't look that good coming in, but they lock in, they go down the lower bracket, they go on a huge run, and end up on top. Once again, if you are just coming from the LCS raid, welcome. This is the NACL promotion tournament. Tons of chaotic gameplay, just like you just saw over there. So buckle up and let's get ready to go. Talking about these two teams, we can start with our matchup. Once again, just to reiterate, this is going to be a best of 5 series. And unlike the LCS finals, Josh, this is going to be in a true fearless format. As soon as one player selects a champion, it cannot be played by either team for the remainder of the series.
And just as importantly, by the time you get to games 4 and 5, you start losing access to bans because so many champions have already been removed from the pool, where game 5 is almost like a blind pick, where you just get to see all kinds of crazy pocket picks coming through. And with Area of Effect taking on Polestar coming through for the last series, one of these teams will be making their way towards the Challengers League, and the other one is going to have to try again next split. So as we start getting ready for these two teams, once again, I'm looking at AoE. This is a team that has set a new record in the Challengers League, actually, Graves. So one of my favorite things that we have seen. It is a team that has had the most players on it since the TSM roster in 2020, and this is the final version that they have been playing with, where we've had so many different players come out on this roster that it's a very different look overall than what we were used to seeing at the very beginning of the split.
And talk about it, you know, roster swaps on the other side. Polestar has had a couple of them as well. We'll get into that in a minute, but first, let's talk about AoE, our 10th seed from the NACL. As you mentioned, a ton of roster changes. Only Breezy is remaining from the initial starting 5 of this squad. You've got Cozy in the top lane, Widdy in the jungle, Onat, Mobility, and of course, Breezy rounding it out. This team went 0-9 in terms of matches in the regular season, but Josh, they did win 7 games, which means they were keeping a lot of these series competitive, and now this is the longest that these players have been together, and they have actually looked pretty good in recent weeks.
Yeah, for sure. One of the big things about this roster is whenever you have so many roster swaps, it's really hard to keep strong mental throughout all of that. And we know that a lot of these players are coming into it. A lot of them view this as some of their kind of last chances to prove that they belong in the Challengers League. And in particular, I am looking at Breezy as one of the main carries, one of the strongest supports that we have had in the Tier 2 League of Legends space for a while. But he's going to have his work cut out for him because he's going up against one of our previous fan favorites over on Polestar, where Prismal is going to be coming in. He's gone, back and forth between the marksman role and the support role. Right now, he's currently supporting behind Sage Wabe, who has been an all-star of a sub.
So fun fact about this team is that Prismo was originally the bot laner for this squad, and going into the second of the 2 qualifier tournaments before the promotion tournament, they actually swapped Prismo to support to replace him with a player named Mobility, who was on the other team on AoE. He ended up getting the opportunity to go to the NACL, and so Polestar have rotated in a couple of different marksmen, and they have landed on Sage Wabe down here in the bottom lane. We're going to talk about him a ton more as we get into the draft for this first game, but really surprising seeing Polestar come through. They were not even in the top 4 of teams in the second qualifier tournament. They ended up losing in the quarterfinals, but because of the qualification points that they built up, they ended up here, and now they have gone on this run and find themselves 1 series away from making it into the Challengers League.
One of the major players that I love looking at on Polestar that we haven't talked about yet is Ariendel. Ariendel is a player who was previously known as Descraton for several years, playing at the UC Irvine. And if you had asked me at that time who or what his best opportunity to go into the Challengers League or Academy was known at the time, it was directly off of his performance where UC Irvine actually won the entirety of CLOL. And now we're going to be looking at this same guy trying to come through, and he's been an all-star once again in this promotion tournament with his Aurelion Sol in particular winning his team several crucial games. And it suddenly means that Ona either has to have a answer prepared right off the bat, or you're going to have to ban it out, and AoE seem pretty convinced that they're going to be able to shut it down before it becomes a problem.
Problem is, Josh, not a lot of people have been able to do that against Ariendel. While Polestar did struggle a little bit in the second OQ tournament, they always did very well when Ariendel was on this Aurelion Sol. And now AoE going to potentially be giving it up here in the first ban phase. We have not seen that become an issue. The only time in the last series that Polestar played where Ariendel got his A-Sol was when there were no bans whatsoever. Interesting to see that AoE is on blue side. Would they potentially want to pick up the dragon themselves to steal it away from Ariendel for the entirety of this best of 5? Looks like the answer is no.
I would be very surprised. It's definitely not a champion that screams Onat to me. Instead, they're going to be grabbing one of Cozy Shroud's more comfortable characters in the Renekton. However, this is going to be matched by the Smolder and the Maokai. And one thing that we have been seeing over the past several weeks is that on 14-17, the dragons are super powerful. Smolder in particular, a champion that we were seeing almost every single game, at least last night, between T1 and Hanwha Life, and it ended up winning Hanwha Life quite a few games. Even down here with a lot of very chaotic games, you're able to get a lot of stacks very quickly, and with the amount of pressure that you actually put on early in the game, you can even get some of the early dragons, relieving some of the issues that you generally have when you get towards your opponents getting towards Soul.
Now, I would say that this is most likely a mid or bot lane pick, but I don't think we've actually seen Ariendel or Sage Wabe on this Smolder pick for the entirety of the promotion tournament, which means we're not really sure where it's going to go. I know that Hoarder also has himself a bit of a wacky champ pool. He played a ton of Korean solo queue going into this split, looking to improve, looking to expand his horizons a little bit, and that Smolder has ended up in the top lane a couple of times in competitive throughout the summer split. Do you think that's a possibility here?
I mean, it's possible. We will have to see. I have seen it as a counter pick to Renekton in the past because of how mobile you are with the flat. But Varus, another very powerful pick coming through. And remember, because we're not on 14-16 like the rest of playoffs has been for Challengers League, we're on 14-17. That does mean that the Varus can shift over from the typically on-hit style of builds with a little bit of magic damage thrown in to the full lethality once again. And Sage Wabe has been playing this fairly consistently and already seeing the Renekton up in the top side of the map. You know that there's not going to be any hyper tanks coming out from AoE. You know that this lethality Varus is going to have a lot of value, and you already have the DPS necessary with having the Smolder on the roster. So I really like what Polestar have brought out at the very beginning. AoE with a fairly classic composition with the Misfortune. However, they don't really have the tools to go for some of these big engages. It's really going to be relying on Breezy looking for flanks.
He's had a ton of really, really nice engages throughout his career. This Rel going to be pretty fit for that, and I like that Polestar ban away the Amumu as well, because it is something that can provide a lot of resistances in the jungle. They also take away City Widdy's Lilia, but this is a jungler on AoE who also has himself a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Be interesting to see how AoE finish out their composition. Polestar now going to have to maybe show a little bit more. I would expect support pick here to pair alongside the Varus. The Braum makes a lot of sense into a heavy engaged champion like the Rel.
And also to his fortune at the same time, the bullet time gets stopped there by the Unbreakable. And yeah, Prismal's probably going to die when he does that because he's taking so much damage. However, it means that no one else in your team needs to worry about that ult at all. And so it's a great composition already from Pulse to make sure that mobility is going to feel uncomfortable in this game. You have a very strong laning phase. You're going to be shutting down Breezy quite a bit. But as we see City Widdy, he's going to be going over towards the Kindred in this game. And there's a lot of damage coming through from AoE, a lot of lockdown on the top half, but with only a light amount of magic damage coming through from Onat in this game, it does ask some questions on whether or not they're going to be able to punch through characters like this Cassante.
That's going to be the lock-in for Hoarder. That'll send the Smolder likely to the mid lane unless we see some flexibility between those two marksmen. Imagine Ariandel going to be locking that one in. But AoE have gotten themselves a lot of comfort in this first game. City Widdy, known Kindred player, known Kindred enjoyer, also plays things like the Karthus and Ivern that were banned away by Pulse. One of the first memories I have of City Widdy really popping up on this Kindred was back on a team called Taco Gaming in, I think, 2022. He had like 15 stacks in 20 minutes, went completely insane, and is in a decent position to do that again with the setup that they have in their solo lanes. Cozy and Onat will be able to set up City Widdy for some of those marks.
We'll see how effectively they can do that. Onat, also a very comfortable Ahri player. However, I'm going to be looking at this. One of the major advantages I'm looking at from AoE, not in terms of the champions, but just in terms of the players, is the fact that Mobility and Breezy, I would say, are individually a stronger pair than Sage Wabe and Prismal on the other side of the map. That gives them a lot of pressure to play around on the bottom side. And then Onat is also a much heavier playmaking mid laner in the middle of the map than Ariandel tends to be, and they give City Widdy a very powerful bottom half to play around with. You can kind of leave Cozy to his own devices quite a bit in the top half of the map, and then really play to shut down some of these major carries, because so much of the success of Polestar has really come from their bottom half. When Sage Wabe is feeling comfortable and Ariandel is just allowed to stack, that's when Polestar finds their wins, and AoE is perfectly positioned to prevent it.
Let's see if they can. It's a best of 5 for the final spot in the NACL. AoE on the blue side, Polestar all the way down from the NACL qualifiers, the Tier 3 space on the red. And if you're just joining us from the LCS, once again, just a reminder, the winner will be in the NACL for the next split, and that's why you're all here anyway, right? I mean, that Team Liquid FlyQuest, that was like the pre-show for this. That, you know, you all come over to this one and watch it as well.
Yeah, you saw how chaotic that one was. You're going to see much more refined gameplay at this level. I don't expect to have minions killing any Nexuses in this one.
Well, you just jinxed us. It's going to happen now.
Yeah, I mean, we said it. We'll end up finding out. This is definitely going to be a very chaotic game. AoE was definitely known for having a lot of very chaotic games where it really depended on how effectively Onat was playing. He was one of the major carries for this team throughout most of their time in the Tier 2 space so far as a major playmaker. He was definitely a player where a lot of people were looking at his ability to get stronger and stronger, and because he's only been playing, or because he was playing almost the entire season, because Cupid did not play very long for AoE, he's actually probably the most consistent member we have on this roster.
And something he likes to do is something that the Ahri likes to do as well, and that's to make plays across the map. Expect him to push these waves up against Ariandel, who is not going to be super active early, and influence those side lanes. Already down here we see Polestar hitting level 2 first. Sage Wabe going to land a stun on Debris with a piercing arrow coming out. Quick look around, we see that it will be the Lethality Varus build, and we also see a Grasp the Undying on Ariandel, signifying a bit more of a tankier build, likely a Spear Shojin mixed in there.
Yeah, you just have to make sure you don't go down to all of the very aggressive bursts coming through from AoE and that little bit of extra HP that the Grasp the Undying gives you over the course of the game will help out quite a bit. But Prismal being very aggressive, and it does not look like Mobility in particular is respecting it all that much. Sage Wabe is going to be able to land a lot of these piercing arrows in the bottom half, and already getting a bit of a CS lead. We'll see how much of it actually sticks through this next round, because they do have Will coming down towards the bottom side, potentially skipping some camps for a dive.
Yeah, Mobility has both of his summoner spells, but is only at about half HP. We'll see how aggressive Pulsar want to be on this play. Now spotted on a ward. Pulsar going to flash over the wall. Prismal finds the concussive blows onto Mobility, stuns him up, and that's first blood. Going towards the rookie, Sage Wabe. Breezy pops the... What is that? The rave ignite? The dubstep ignite. That's what it's called onto Prismal to make it a 1-for-1 trade.
There we go, showcasing that NYC nightlife coming through. I love it. We do end up seeing the kill go over to Sage Wabe, though, and a little bit of a sloppy dive coming through from Polestar. I like the fact that they're going for this kind of play, but because Breeze does a really good job stunning up Will, he ends up using the Twisted Advance on nothing, allowing Breeze to actually go for the dubstep ignite, picking that one up. But it's still going to be a kill going over to Sage Wabe. A lot of experience denied from Mobility, all of his summoner spells taken away, and it does mean that Pulse will have a lot of advantage on the bottom side.
Right on the other side, will be City Widdy going on towards Hoarder. Has to flash away, but the final proc of the E will get City Widdy his first kill and his first stack.
Yeah, definitely going to be greeting that flash there from Hoarder. Ends up going down relatively early on, and so we are seeing that it is going to be a bit of a race in this game. We are going to be looking at Sage Wabe finding that advantage in the bottom side, stacking up that tier, but the advantage from City Widdy comes out very quickly already. Doesn't even have to flash, has the phage already completed, and we have seen what happens when this Kindred does get accelerated. Remember, it is a best of 5, so you're only going to see one opportunity for City Widdy to play this, which means he really has to make this game count. He's already doing that.
There's a lot of really good Kindred players in this promotion tournament. Will actually is another one of them, but of course, in this true Fearless format, City Widdy picking it up means that this is the only time we're going to be seeing it in the series, and that means that City's going to have to do some damage on it, and started off well so far. Picks up that phage, going to be a lot easier for him to clear out some of these waves. Head towards potentially that first dragon as Mobility and Breezy are pushing the spot lane in.
Yeah, Breezy's taking a lot of damage. He's actually been hit by the last 4 spells coming out from Sage Wabe in his bottom half of the map, and that means he's running out of HP very quickly. At the same time, though, got to give some props over to Ariendel, as he's been doing a pretty good job maintaining parity in the mid lane. However, this lane becomes much more dangerous in the next wave or so when Ona does get level 6, and City Widdy also does a lot of burst damage. But this bottom half of the map, which we were saying at the very beginning is supposed to be going in favor of AoE, has not been doing that at all. We haven't even been seeing City Widdy play towards this bottom half of the map, whereas Will is actually going to be the first one looking at this dragon.
Potentially starting it up. I mean, Prismal and Sage Wabe having a great time in this bot lane already. The enchanted arrow, the enhanced arrow, almost takes Breezy down. I don't know if it would have been entirely enough damage, but it's
enhanced.
At least
it's just not
him
crystal,
away.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, there's a wrong champion here. But either way, City Widdy going to be starting up the grubs, whereas, like we said, Will going to be taking away this dragon. And some of that early mobility that you get with the Cloud Dragon will pay off a lot, especially for Ariendel later on. But Prismal tries to stop it back, is not able to. We will be seeing a plate go over in the other direction, but it is going to be traded, like we said, across the map. And all 3 grubs going to City Widdy. Dragon gets picked up for Will, but still AoE, that extra kill on the top half of the map, does leave them in a very comfortable spot.
Now, you're the one who invented the Twitch chatters name, right?
Yeah. I claim it. I'm the first person I know who said it.
I feel like it's just been all the NACL has just taken it over now. So
yeah. You know, there's a lot of memes that we have gotten through. If you're not familiar and you are in Twitch chat, I just want you to know that you are a fan of whichever team gets 6 grubs, because when the Void Mites come out, when you're actually hitting the turrets, those are you guys. Right, so you want to make sure that the team that is actually your favorite is going to be the one who's going to be getting these grubs. And so far, you can only be an AoE fan if you're in chat.
At least so far, yeah. We'll see if you guys even get into the game at all. I mean, Pulsar could just steal it away, prevent you guys from coming in whatsoever. And now AoE still continuing to pressure that top side. They've rotated Breezy all the way up to the top lane alongside City Widdy. They're going to try for a dive. City has ultimate, but this still could be risky.
Yeah, Breezy showing now means that there's going to be a counter dive bottom side, but Hoarder in a lot of trouble.
The Pathmaker going to find the stun and the all-out onto Cozy. City Widdy actually tanking tower first. He's the squishiest member. Hoarder is still alive. Going to try to wait for that Kindred ultimate, but they will not be able to. Cozy gets the kill, and he gets out with his life.
Oh, man. Not the cleanest dive in the world, but you got what you came for. You find the kill, and in fact, you waste a lot of time from Hoarder as well. There's going to be multiple plates going over towards Cozy in the top half of the map, but you got to look at mobility as well. You got to feel for this guy. He has to be feeling terrible in this game right now because he's not been able to farm at all. Sagewabe and team has pushed him out at the bottom side of the map, down several waves, down several plates as well. And whenever you look at these kind of games, you really got to be like, all right, guys, you shacked me now. We got to see how well you do, and City Widdy has got to run for the hills.
Flashes over the wall, going to be matched by Prismal's flash as well. They use the heal just for some extra movement speed onto the Kindred. Here comes Hoarder as well. City has the ultimate, but he knows he's dead anyway. Ariendo getting the kill, his first of the game.
A good number of stacks coming through at the same time. A lot of dragon training here for Ariendel, so they will equalize the gold a little bit. City being too greedy on the far side of the map, not respecting that Will never actually went for the dive in the bottom half. They didn't actually get to see him spend all the time there. He didn't have the time to take away all of these stacks from Pulse. At the same time, Mobility still struggling down here in the bottom side, but I really want to be looking at City Widdy and putting a lens on him this game because he's got a couple of those dives already going off. He spent a lot of his time on the top half of the map trying to make sure that Cozy is strong. And to his credit, he's done that. He's very strong. Cozy's very strong as well. Up, what is that, 2 waves at least already? And Hoarder with no recompense for it at all. Now they need to show us that they are going to be able to carry these games, and this has been a criticism that we have seen from City Widdy and Cozy when we were last seeing them in the Tier 3 space. When City Widdy was playing for Team Liquid first back in the day, he had a lot of trouble actually taking his leads and converting them into wins.
Because he gets a lot of leads. I mean, that's something that he did even in the NACL last year, and of course in this his time in Tier 3 before. But being able to capitalize on them, that is the name of the game. And so far, still at a pretty even game state, but look at the play that Will is making towards the bottom side of the map. They lock it down Breezy again. They force his flash away. Will is still going forward, gets the concussive blows to land. Sagewabe now with the flash over. Oh, it's a big mess down here in the bottom side. Breezy still finding himself alive. Chain of Corruption now lands onto Mobility. The rail still lives, and Mobility gets the kill. Now comes Will. He finally locks down Breezy with a Bramble Smash, but it's a 2-for-1, and it might soon be 3, because Onat has arrived. Lands that Spirit Rush forward, gets another proc onto Prismal. The Unbreakable comes out, but it's only going to delay the inevitable as Onat picks up the 6th kill of the game for AoE Esports.
Oh, that was a disaster coming through for Polestar. They're trying to continue building up this lead in the bottom half of the map, and they lose everything on that last one. Again, very not clean dives coming through in this game, but it's in the favor of AoE, and now they're trying to make their own.
Try it again. This time City still has the ultimate. They land a stun. Dominus comes out. All out does from Hoarder though, and it will just be him dying. Ariendel using that teleport to pick up the wave, at least make sure that those minions don't go to waste.
But that's what we like to see. That was the cleanest dive we've had so far today between these two teams. AoE make it happen. Another kill coming through, and yeah, they're going to be on the favor of AoE now. But if we take another look at this, watch how Sagewabe is unsure about how he's trying to play this one. As he goes forward, he gets a couple of auto attacks. He's like, oh, I do not want to be taking this at all. Instantly flashes out. And even though he roots Mobility with the ultimate, he switches targets to Breezy, who lives with a couple of HP. It ends up being a total disaster because they're trying to split their damage onto 2 targets. You need to kill one. They don't kill either of them. And all 6 scrubs going to AoE.
Trying to, have their cake and eat it too a little bit down there in the bottom lane. I mean, if you land that Chain of Corruption onto a squishy target like a Misfortune, and you have the Q charged, I think you almost kill him if you land that fully charged Q onto him with all the Blight stacks. And so, missed opportunities there from Polestar, maybe seeing some of the inexperience finally out of Sagewabe, who, before this series has had himself an incredible tournament.
Yeah, he's been looking really good. It's important to remember that they had less than a week of scrims before they came into this promotion tournament because they were playing with Azog throughout the entirety of the, we'll call it the regular season for the open qualifiers. But now he comes in, he's been looking very good. I think the biggest the biggest praise we can give is that we expected him to get gapped in this tournament, and he's been looking just fine. Now as he's coming into this game, does have the hubris, trying to make sure that he is going to be strong, but he's got a lot of threat going on to him. Mobility, despite the fact that he is still down 30 CS, has picked up 2 kills already.
A lot of the time, we're coming up from the qualifiers, we're trying to hype up these players. We'll say the word rookie a ton. This guy literally has never played on a Tier 3 top 16 stage until this moment right here in the promotion tournament. We heard some interviews from him saying that, he wanted to stay as a sub with Polestar, get his experience learning through there, and it's paid off for him because he now gets this opportunity. He shows himself, he shows people what he can do, and I mean, promotion or not, Josh, this guy is going to be on people's radars for the next year to come.
Yeah, we'll see how he continues to play going forward, right? It's one thing to have a really good week, and he has had a good week. We've seen other players do that in the past. I think Dragoon is probably one of my favorite examples of that.
Yeah, he's had two good weeks.
Several really good promotion tournaments in the past. Fortunately, has not had a whole lot of time to play in the Challengers League. Sage Wabe hopefully will have a bit more opportunity going forward. But one of the big things in this game that I'm looking at as well, we see a bunch of damage go through onto Hoarder, is the fact that both dragons have already gone over to Polestar. This is generally one of the main issues that you have when you're playing a Smolder, is you don't get those early ones, and now they're trying to showcase that he is vulnerable.
Well, it might be one less dragon on the map. Ariandel had to flash away. Take a look at the stats. 110, he's about halfway to getting that execute that would be available, I would say, probably for like a potential Dragon Soul fight or fight around the Baron early on. So he's stacking up pretty well. He's doing his job.
Yeah, he's doing a pretty decent job so far, right? Generally, we'll continue to ramp up from this position after the turrets start to go down and when Smolder really takes off. But as I was getting to Grapes, the major point is one of the reasons why Smolder was really struggling in the professional scene for a long time was because you could not fight for dragons until your opponent already had 3 of them. You were just so weak having a Smolder on your team that you were not going to be able to fight for any of those, and you had to go for this really big fight around the Dragon Soul.
Oh my god, here's Cozy popping the dominance onto Sage Wabe, already using his heal. Prismal trying to keep him alive. There's the stun. Cozy might have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew as he's healing up a lot. Ends up with a slice and dice and makes it a 1-for-1.
Wow, really good stuff coming out from Cozy, making sure that Sage Wabe ends up going down. It takes him a little bit longer than potentially 1 and 2, but crucially, that's going to mean that the first blood turret is going to be going over towards Prismal, and Sage Wabe is not going to be getting any of that money. Whereas on the other side, Mobility going to be getting a lot of this money from the mid lane turret, and I feel like we've seen this story play out a couple of times so far in this game, where Sage Wabe has not necessarily been getting the money that really needs to get funneled into him. He's still very strong overall as you pull up the gold graph, where he is the second richest player on the map, but imagine if he had survived that and actually picked up even more money off of that turret.
And the craziest part is, Mobility is the richest player in the game. This is the guy that was pushed off of like 3 different bot lane waves, whether it was through dives or anything else, and now he actually is pretty rich and pretty strong at this point. Has the Last Whisper, has the Bloodthirster to heal himself up as well. Once we get to those team fights, that bullet time always gonna pack a punch. And
I don't know if anybody told you this, Graves, but it's bounty meta, right? You don't care about the beginning. This is the investment banking that we're consistently seeing go through. But now AoE, they should be feeling very strong about this upcoming dragon. They really want to make sure they can put some pressure on. They do not want to allow Polestar to play for an Infernal Soul with the Smolder and the bars on their team. So they're already setting up, getting some vision denial, and potentially looking for a dive.
Breezy's hunting. He's got the Blast Cone to use either offensively or defensively. Going to try to use it in the latter sense as he sends AoE back towards a position where they can hunt around this dragon. Charm lands onto Prismal. And the important thing, Josh, in this situation is while Pulse got those 2 dragons, they're not really in a position to fight for the third because AoE got all the grubs, they got the Rift Herald, and they're up about 3,500 gold.
Yeah. It is definitely a tougher position for them to play for a little while, but at the same time, that gives time over towards AoE to continue to expand this gold lead. Onat down in the bottom side is now matched by a teleport from Ariandel, but Onat just needs to put some pressure there and move up. There's not a lot of vision in the eastern quadrant of this jungle, so Onat can move relatively freely, and outside of Hoarder and Will, and sometimes Prismal, depending on if he has the Unbreakable up, you can't really face check a lot of these brushes because of how much damage Onat will actually look to do, and I'm honestly surprised he's not going for something more aggressive, but he sees Will around the corner.
Nature's Ass comes out, that just forces Onat to use the ultimate. That is a big cooldown as the dragon is about to spawn, or has actually spawned. Polestar would love to pick this one up, and right now AoE need to get their waves in the right position to fight for it. Cozy has teleport, and so that's why he's staying around here on the top side.
Yeah. It's a big ultimate, but it's also a big commitment coming through from Will. So it's not this easy trade coming through. You do prevent Ariandel from being under any threat, but you can see that Pole's not playing for the dragon whatsoever. Instead, Hoarder looking to play for Cozy.
So we finally get one back. Now it's 2 dragons to 1, or maybe 3 dragons to 1 if you count Ariandel. He's gonna also be pretty important in the later stages of this game. And you mentioned him a little bit at the start of the stream, but I really want to like hammer that home. That CLOL title that he won with UC Irvine, that was 6 years ago, and he still has not gotten that opportunity to make it onto the tier 2 level, but he's been really grinding, and you can tell whenever you talk to him, whenever you see any of the content that he makes, like, he wants this really bad. This is one of the best opportunities he's ever been given. This is the first time he's made it to the promotion tournament, and he's honestly been one of Polestar's best players throughout this entire split.
Yeah, I definitely remember him mostly as a battle mage player, right? Playing a lot of Cassiopeia, Swain, and Ryze back in the day, but he's really evolved his playstyle, playing a lot of these more scaling champions, and looking for these opportunities to scale later on into the game. He's currently top farm across the entire map, which is fantastic on his Smolder, has about 160 stacks, so he hasn't accelerated his stacking so far in this game, but that's not entirely his fault. Generally, you always look at teams that are winning to have Smolders just really start picking it up, and now that he's currently playing into the neck, and there's not a lot of threat onto him by himself, he'll flap himself away.
Yeah, so right now AoE in a great position to try to continue to push their lead, but City, if he goes too aggressive, could be in trouble. Already has a flash out. Here comes the Nature's Wrath and a teleport in from Cozy to let AoE control this topside jungle. The red buff will belong to the blue side as they make their way towards the top tier 2.
Yeah, more importantly than the red buff, it's his top tier 2, 2 kills worth of gold going over towards the members of AoE, split 3-way, so not quite as valuable as if it all goes onto one person, but mobility is even here to make sure that Ariandel cannot put any pressure towards the mid lane turret. This gold lead that AoE has had, it was 3,000 about 12 minutes into the game. It's grown to about 4.5, but it's really going to have to come to a head over the next 2 dragons coming through, simply because AoE, they need to start fighting these fights. They need to start finding ways to outpace their opponents on the map. And that was the first time that we really saw AoE go for a better game plan, a better macro understanding than their opponents. And now they have to continue to find opportunities to do that.
Oh, might find one right here. Sagewabe might be in a bit of trouble. Throws out the Chain of Corruption, but has to flash away already. Magnastorm lands on it too, and there comes the bullet time, but it's blocked up by Prismal beautifully to prevent any of the big carries from going down. Onat throws out a charm, doesn't find a member, and AoE get out without a kill being given over.
That was a very expensive look coming out from AoE. It's going to cost a teleport from Onat. They also use several ultimates, and ultimately they get a flash from Sagewabe and a flash from Will. But this is also while Will doesn't have the ultimate available. They're going to be sitting in a fight in a couple of minutes around the dragon where Will is going to have that ultimate. Sagewabe will have the ultimate available, so they need to showcase that all of that button economy that they did expend for this is going to be worth it. So we'll be looking at Onat to actually try and find his way to Sagewabe.
If they can get on him without that flash, that's a big kill. Again, Ariandel's strong, but he's not the strongest carry in this game, at least at this point. Right now, that still is the Varus. If he goes down, that is immediate sign to go towards Baron. We continue to add to AoE's gold lead at this point. It's nearing 5,000 at this point, Josh. We talked about how Pulse loves to scale. That's their playstyle. They have the Smolder. You can't necessarily always scale when you're down this much.
Yeah. Especially since City Widdy's done a fantastic job, already at 8 stacks on the Kindred. That means they've gotten 2 range increases coming through. The first one at 4, the second one at 7. They've been playing so much towards this top half of the map that Polestar, without as much control, has to be very careful. They think they might have found Breezy, but not going to be finding anything too substantial there. At the same time, Hoarder not getting anything done in the bottom half of the map. AoE are at least providing a lot of pressure, but I really want to see this pressure convert into something more. They know that they can't really play for a Dragon Soul win condition. It'll just take too long. Smolder will be too strong. And so, 22 minutes into the game, AoE, they haven't been setting up too aggressively around the Baron. They're going to have to force some kind of decisive fight in the next couple of minutes.
And you see that marker on the top side now. The next time City Widdy is going to be able to pick up a stack is either at that Baron or after it goes down to another player. So, kind of the game telling them like, hey, this is where you got to go at this point. And City Widdy and the rest of AoE certainly listening, have their eyes on that, but you can't just start it at this point. You need to find a pick somewhere. Making Sagewabe's flash was nice, but already halfway off cooldown. They're losing time, and now AoE have to go towards this dragon, which is spawning in 10 seconds.
Yeah. Oh. They're fighting.
Yeah, Breezy has to the crash town to escape. Still gets stunned up. There comes the mom. Breezy might be going down. Pops the Lamb's Respite. Steady Widdy to keep his support alive, and he just is able to survive that final piercing arrow from Sagewabe. Now Hoarder at about half HP. Still, nobody goes down as the dragon remains alive. Steady Widdy jumping over the pit to start it up.
A very expensive contest coming through from Polestar, but it is going to be getting them this dragon. They're still down 5,000 gold. Cozy's teleport not available.
Oh, look at the teleport on the other side. Hoarder is looking to try and flank City Widdy out, force him to jump back over the wall. Will they go for the steal? Is at 3,000 HP. City's not going to be in range to get it. It will be Soul Point, but here comes Cozy on the teleport flank. Pops a Dominus, finds the stun of the Sagewabe. Remember, he doesn't have the flash. There comes the bullet time, but still Deveris will live, and the piercing arrow not enough to allow anybody on AoE to fall. It is a 1-for-0 only as Will drop, but City's still chasing. City's still hungry. He procs the Conqueror, but will have to back away.
That's a win coming through for Pulse, though. Only losing Will so far. We need to see more taken from AoE. They have Cozy down here at the bottom side. Twitch chat rejoices that they pop out to help him take down this turret. They need to continue getting this gold because putting your opponents on that Soul win condition, putting Pulse in a position where they have very obvious win conditions is a very tough position for AoE to be in. They are not going for the Baron just quite yet. They go try and force a decisive fight. They're up 7,000 gold, but the game is not over.
Not over, I mean, just yet. However, more gold given over. As you said, almost 7k, and City Widdy getting even stronger. When he goes back, might even have an entire third item at this point. You mentioned he already got the 2 range increases, and he gets so close to just 1v9ing that fight, but didn't happen just yet. That gives Polestar a little bit more life. You now see in that little icon under Ariandel's champion, he's got that 225 stacks and some more.
Yeah. He's scaling up quite a bit. I also want to give a big shout out here towards Mobility, a player who was down, felt 30 CS during the laning phase, is now caught up towards Onet and outpaced Sagewabe. So they've been doing a fantastic job. And now, Will potentially thinking about this dive in the top half, going to think better of it because they have Cozy on the other side who is going to be putting threat on the bottom lane turret. This is AoE out-rotating AoE, or Polestar on the map. And Polestar, they don't have a clear answer towards any of these things because of how much stronger Cozy is than Hoarder.
Look at this going on right now. Hoarder got chunked out a little bit, and now Prisma was looking for something, gets spotted out. Actually might be in a little bit of trouble. Uses the Unbreakable, also gives you some movement speed to run away a little bit faster. But now, AoE potentially setting up around this Baron. You remember, this is what they want to fight for. This is what could send them over the edge, get them into a position where Pulse cannot come back from, despite the Soul Point in their favor, despite the scaling of the Smolder. But they're too scared to pull it because they know that Polestar, they're here to play a little bit now as we cross the 25-minute mark.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a window while Sagewabe was contesting Cozy on the far side of the map, but AoE not pulling the trigger like you said, but Cozy coming over for a flank. He's going to be behind them all.
Doesn't have the flash, but now popping the Dominus and looking to go in. Nice job from Prisma to block away Cozy from Sagewabe, and now the entirety of Polestar just gonna go and collapse onto the flanker himself, but he's still alive. And the bullet time comes out as well. Hoarder might be in trouble. The Lamb's Respite gonna keep everybody up and healthy, but now the Smolder executes, can come in. Already a 1-for-1, but here comes Ariandel. He has to flash away, but still already has himself a double kill, looking for City Widdy as well. He will get it before dropping. It's a triple kill for the Dragon, and Polestar go even in the fight.
Oh my gosh, they actually go +1. It's a 3-for-2 going in favor of Polestar. We're starting to see some cracks in the armor because Cozy was the one who was trying to make that play happen. We saw this yesterday when we were seeing them in the upper bracket where AoE trying to make these plays happen. We're oftentimes overextending for all of these fights. Even though it looks like a great bullet time from Mobility, it doesn't end up meaning a lot because Ariandel still free firing over the side. Cozy jumps out of the Lamb's Respite, instantly dies for it, and they trade even more. 2 kills go through to Ariandel, the Smolder continuing to get stronger, and even though one of them does end up going towards Sagewabe, it's still an extra kill coming through. We were saying how it's bounty gaming, now some of those bounties going the other direction.
Yeah, and now Ariandel officially here to play, has those 3 items nearing 300 stacks. And you see those executes, how important they can be in a fight like that that goes to the margins. Now Polestar, that's a minute, Josh, until that next Dragon. That could be Infernal Soul, even more damage to get those health bars lower and lower and to allow for the Smolder to do some smoldering things.
Yeah, with the amount of range advantage that Polestar really has in the poke situation beforehand, they got to be
Hoarder.
setting up. But Hoarder's getting caught out right now. Use the cinders, run away!
It's like he's picking him up, trying to get a little bit faster, like bar chimes, but a little
Baron.
bit too not enough. Here comes City Widdy, but look at Polestar. They're on to the Baron right now as we go into the picture-in-picture, and City Widdy, the jungler, is still stuck in the bottom lane trying to take down the Cassante. They finally will kill him, but this Baron is just gone. Polestar pick it up because of Hoarder's sacrifice, and that is the rally cry Baron buff belonging to the red side. Now, can they escape? Remember, it's a 5v4. City Widdy opting to go towards the dragon instead of looking for a fight. The gold's still about 5,000 in AoE's side, but Polestar now have themselves a Baron buff.
Yeah, the mid turret goes down, but nobody's there to get any of the local gold. And AoE, they do pick up a dragon, but that's a good death from Hoarder right there. Some of the others haven't been, but that one was a good death. And now Polestar, again, spitting distance away from this game. What is he doing? I think he's just trying to make sure there's as much time as possible.
I think because the Baron
that's
despawned,
true.
a stack could form, and maybe he's waiting for that. I remember I saw City do something like this. He now knows he's wasting a little bit too much time. Backs away. He has 10 stacks on this Kindred now. But,
yeah,
I mean, Polestar, they're coming back a little bit here.
I don't hate it, actually. I mean, partly waiting for the stack, but I think just as importantly, making sure it takes longer for the next spawn of the dragon, because Polestar, that is one of their easy win conditions. They do continue to build up this Rally Cry Baron buff. It is now only a 4,500 gold lead coming through for AoE, but the waves for Pulse are just really tough to play with. AoE did a really good job of pushing them so far back that by the time Pulse is ready to start sieging on all these turrets, AoE also has the time to mount a defense. So Ariandel, all alone in the top half of the map, likely needs to be joined by the rest of the team in order to try and get even more money, because nobody's matching Cozy.
And you know that Baron take for Pulse, that was a very decisive play. That was something that we didn't see from AoE when they had positions to maybe pull that objective themselves. Polestar kind of got nothing to lose coming into this, right? Obviously now you're one series away, but expectations were not high for this squad. They had Sage Wabe coming in as a sub. They just sent it, went for the Baron, they got it, and they're all of a sudden in a much closer game than maybe they should be.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm looking at this game and starting to feel like Pulse are actually the ones who are in an advantageous state in this game. The biggest problem that they have is nobody can match Cozy because Hoarder is just weak, right? He's got a Thornmail and a Zeke's, and cool. Like, you're not going to be killing Cozy with that anytime soon. Trying to get at least a little bit more resistances, but you have to be very careful because so much of the money on this player has been siphoned off towards the rest of the team. But as we look at the actual gold coming through in the game, Mobility, who is struggling at the very beginning, still the richest player on the map, but then it's Ariandel and Sage Wabe, who have done a fantastic job keeping themselves in. And as we look at the gold graph, look at the entire lead starting to slip away from AoE.
Yeah, we're starting to slide back down the mountain. Pulse is looking to go all the way down to a game 1 win. They force Breezy to go away. Onak comes in. He's level 17 as well, but does not land a charm onto Prismal, so he will force them to back away for now. Cozy is here on a flank position, but Hoarder will spot him out. Uses the Blast Cone to try to get Hoarder away from his team. Uses the All-Out onto Cozy and will escape with the Pathmaker as the Nature's Wrath comes out to disengage. Cozy still looking for that kill. Hoarder is at about 500 HP. He has to flash over the wall with the Locket Shield also used. And now the Baron buff is gone. Polestar do not have that advantage anymore. And AoE still trying to find that play, but have not broken this game open yet.
Yeah, but it's still nearly a 4,000 gold swing coming through towards Polestar. They were down 8k a couple of minutes ago. Now they're only down 4. So Polestar looking quite good. A QSS comes through for Ariandel. And this little dragon, the little dragon that could, Ariandel's done this one before on the Aurelian Soul many times. They're 2 minutes away from the Infernal Soul. They're 2 minutes away from the Baron at the same time. And AoE, despite several flanks coming through from Cozy, we said at the very beginning, they don't have a lot of engage. It's going to be very reliant on Breezy trying to find these flanks, but I'll be honest, he hasn't even really been going for them. He hasn't really been setting them up at all. This is the first time where he's looking for one of these big flanks onto the other team, and Polestar have done a really good job making sure that they are never under threat. They will win a front to back if AoE takes it.
Yeah, if anything, it's been Cozy actually finding more of those flanks, but not as effective as a big rel knocking up all 5 members of your team. but just a crocodile running at you. And, you know, we've seen Pulse be able to withstand that pressure a little bit when Cozy has tried to find a fight for AoE. It's been a lot of trying, not a lot of succeeding in terms of getting that pick that sparks the major objective. AoE still looking for that opportunity as they continue to get stronger, Josh. But Polestar getting stronger as well. We see a Haunting Guys come through for Ariandel 55 seconds before this dragon spawns.
Yeah. It's very mentally different when you get flanked by a Renekton versus when you get flanked by a Rel, right? When it's a Renekton, it's like, okay, turn on him, kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him. But you get everybody on your team gets crowd controlled by a Rel. It's like, F. Like, what do we do? we're all dead all of a sudden. Everybody panics for a moment, and then it takes more time to come back in. But Prismal and City.
Oh, Prismal went really far forward. He is so far away from the rest of his team. City Widdy at level 16, not going to be able to find the kill as Prismal says, stand beside you, as he jumps over to Ariandel to try and keep himself alive. 20 seconds until that dragon spawns. They're going to have to pop a couple of bases, and so Polestar trying to buy time, and AoE looking to push the initiative. They got Cozy pushing on the top side as they head towards the dragon.
Prismal getting caught means that Cozy is rewarded for all his time spent in the side lane. Yet again, finds another objective because Polestar are trying to move around as a group. AoE doing a much better job moving around the map and picking up another dragon will stall out the game even further. But that's not what AoE are trying to do. They are one team fight away from winning, but they have yet to manufacture a fight that will actually win them these games. And as the game goes longer, every single time, Grapes, it gets, but that's a couple more stacks on the dragon. That's a couple more % higher that he's going to execute you.
I mean, the last fight that we had, around that, like, what is it, the fourth dragon? Ariandel was at 220, 230 stacks? 344 now. I mean, that's a lot more damage that can come in. The execute threshold still in play as well, and now it's Pulse down 4,500 gold that are pulling this Baron and forcing AoE to come to them.
Yeah, Cozy's going to be teleporting through, but they are all in the
it's
pit.
going down
Watch
so
this bullet
fast.
time.
I think this Baron might just be down. The question is, can AoE win the fight? Smite secured here by Will. And here comes Cozy off the teleport flank. But Polestar positioned beautifully, but the bullet time will take down the Pulse bottom lane as Mobility will try to take out the entirety of his former team. It's a double kill for him. Another one over towards Onat, and only the tiny little dragon is alive. He might pack a punch, but so does the Ahri. It's an ace for AoE.
I mean, I like the idea coming from Polestar, but it is crazy that the fight AoE needed was one that Polestar decided to go for. The bullet time coming across so many people in the Baron pit means that AoE finally find the fight that they need to end game 1.
Our 10th seed from the NACL says that we are not done just yet. They withstood the pressure, they found the final fight, and they take game 1 of this series.
Yeah, ultimately, I think we learned a lot about both these teams. AoE, they're going to need to find some better engage tools. Trying to find all of these flanks coming through from Cozy did not really work out. As we take another look at the replay for this last fight of the game, it really was a lot of pressure coming through from Polestar. They were the ones who were going to do this. They did it very quickly. They committed several ults in order to try and buy time. But ultimately, the retreat was very disorderly. They ended up getting a lot of people caught in this choke point, and the bullet time rips them a new one. But Ariandel, who's supposed to be so much of this team's damage, just never had an opportunity to set up for the front to back. There was never battle lines drawn for Polestar, and this is where AoE thrives. And
you mentioned, hey, like if the Croc runs at you, you could just go and kill him, but he was pretty strong at that point. You mentioned how far behind Hoarder got in the early game and how Cozy was able to take advantage of that. He actually ended up distracting a lot of Pulse's members and allowed for AoE and allowed for that bullet time to do some AoE as it ripped apart the bottom lane and then eventually found them that last fight.
Yeah, ultimately AoE, they're much better on the map so far, but I haven't been as convinced by their team fighting. That's something that they can clean up over the rest of the series. It's definitely a bit of a draft issue this time, but as we look towards the rest of it, it's still a win coming through for the defending champs.
Take a look at our player of the game. I don't know. I think maybe City Widdy just getting all those marks on that Kindred, man. I mean, he took over kind of quietly at the start, but ended up being a big factor in both keeping his players, his teammates alive with those Lamb's respites, but also, you know, doing a lot of damage as well. You can take a look at his stats right here.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I saw from City Widdy was his early game. Even though the dives weren't the cleanest, he was still able to get cozy in a position where nobody on Polestar could match him. The fact that he was so active early on in the game, whereas the dives coming through on the other side of the map were not nearly as clean, allowed mobility to really come back. But City Widdy was the one who created a lot of pressure for AoE right at the beginning and allowed them to build the gold lead in the first place.
And that was all that they needed. I mean, they were up gold the entire time. It seemed like maybe they're about to lose a step with Polestar coming back with their scaling composition. But it is our representatives from the NACL taking the first game of this best of 5. We're going to head to a short break, and when we come back, we'll see if Pulse can bounce back.
Psst. Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost.
Game number 2 of the NACL promotion tournament presented to you by The Real Cost on its way. We just saw AoE Esports, our 10th seed from the NACL, take down Polestar, our number 4 seed from the Tier 3 qualifiers. And now we have ourselves a game number 2 with AoE up 1-0. Let's take a look at that post-game graphic, that post-game breakdown presented to you by The Real Cost, Josh. We thought Polestar might have started to come back a little bit. You see that Smolder that was picked up very, very early in the draft. Ariendo had himself a good game.
Yeah, he looked pretty good, but ultimately, I think I was mentally shouting at AoE the entire game, start the Baron, please! But it ended up being Polestar that ended up starting the Baron, and ultimately it didn't matter because they found the fight that they needed to. They got in, they were able to force their opponents to get into a team fight at all, and that was all AoE needed. They were so far ahead in gold, and by the time they actually went for the Baron play, you can see that there's like that tiny dip at the very end where the Baron actually dies, and then it immediately goes back onto AoE as they wipe the entirety of the enemy team. Just need to make sure that you can go for some of these things. AoE seemed to be once bitten, twice shy about all of these engagements because they really struggled going into CCG yesterday. Now they got to showcase that they're willing to be more aggressive going into the rest of the series.
Yep, I have this friend who, whenever we drive, like, he's a little bit hesitant about, like, turning over to exits or things like that. And so as soon as he like, misses one and we see it, it's like, dude, you're going the wrong way. He says, no, this is my way. And it takes, like, 10 extra minutes to get there. But then you still end up getting to the destination, right? And that's kind of what AoE was doing a little bit. A little bit of hesitation. They had a decision made for them, and then they ended up, winning. But it took them a little bit longer than maybe they wanted it to. I think that game could have ended in, like, 26, 27 minutes if they just decided to pull the Baron at the right time.
I think I'm that friend, right? It's like, you ask me, do you want to do something? I was like, sure. What do you want to do? I don't know. But as soon as someone's like, okay, we're going to go here and do this, I'm like, all right, bet, I'll be there. So
and then you're the life of the party, right? You're
exactly. Yeah, we see. It depends. But either way, we do end up seeing AoE. They were the life of the party this time. And as we start getting ready for Game 2, remember, everybody, it is a full Fearless draft. And that means that all these champions on the top of it are grayed out. That means nobody is allowed to pick these champions for the rest of the series. And AoE went down the blue side again, but they won the game. That's not how this is supposed to go.
We've seen some teams opt for this picking red side strategy, but that's not been something that has happened a lot. And the teams that I can think of that do this are mostly Dragoon's Goons, actually, if I've been watching the Tier 3 space, because they loved giving Dragoon counterpick. They loved getting him R5. As the infamous graphic has shown, sometimes it didn't always work, but getting a player like that a counterpick did seem impactful a lot of the time. But it's actually Pulse going towards the red side again. I don't really see anybody who's screaming, I want R5 super bad. I mean, Hoarder just locked Cassante on R5 last game.
Yeah, it's definitely really interesting to see what it is that Polestar are going to be doing on the red side of the map, because generally it's pretty accepted that blue side is stronger. And really importantly, as we look at this next game, Polestar, they're going to have to try and find some way to upset the balance. It definitely, whenever you see an R5 Cassante or something, usually what that means is the team is like, I really want to play this champion, but let's see if something works out. There's like one more champion that we need to see come out from the other side before it is going to be good. Sometimes it's absolutely wild. I personally have like an 85% win rate on Mundo as R5 just because it's like, oh, they have Jin and what's that in the mid lane? Zoe? Yeah, these champions are never killing me, so let me just rock the Mundo. I'll win us the game. Unfortunately, right now it means that Rumble is going to be going over towards the other side, and Cozy had a really good job, really good time on the Renekton, really bullying Hoarder around with the aid of City Widdy. Now that he's on the Rumble, he can do the exact same thing into pretty much anything that Hoarder can play.
And that's another power pick that you're giving over on B1 by opting to go towards the red side. And we'll see if Pulse have some sort of response to it. I know Hoarder does have a bit of a wacky champion pool sometimes, but against Rumble, it's really hard to find something that can both, defeat it in lane and then also be useful once we get past like the 10-15 minute mark. So we see the Zeri getting locked in. Could be a bit of a flex, but I'd imagine that's going down towards Sage Wabe. Ariandel just doesn't scream Zoe player to me, or Zeri player to me. I don't know why.
I think we have seen him play it, though. I also know that the last couple of times that we have seen a Rumble played up against Polestar, or going up against Hoarder, it has been a Ornn that came out last time, where he unfortunately died 7 times in their games versus Lotus, and other than that, it's been a couple of Cassante games when they had to play up against the Rumble. Those are not available right now, unfortunately. I mean, the Ornn, you can try and play it, but it is a very tough matchup, and Cozy, very aggressive up in the top side, so Hoarder would have to be fighting him tooth and nail for the entire game. And I'm also very entertained by this Cho'Gath hover that Una has gone for the 2nd game in a row.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get wild a little bit there. I wonder if that stands for something. Sometimes these players they hover something in honor of one of their friends or that special someone. That was the second time we saw that Cho'Gath on that. Maybe we gotta.
Yeah, it's for Zamudo, actually. Either way, we've been seeing this Kale Hover coming through, another scaling champion possibly on the horizon here for
No way.
Polestar. It is not going to get locked in as they jump away to Jarvan instead. It's an interesting combination, but you're kind of setting up. I've heard some really terrible names for the Cataclysm when it's paired with certain champions, but usually it's because you have the Rumble on your side, right? Things like the Volcano or the Crater, just setting up where it's just like all on fire the entire time. But you have to be very careful that you don't lock your own team into that own Crater.
A little bit of reverse synergy, but I will say, this is one of Will's most played champions and one of his best champions from the entirety of the summer split at the very least. Played this especially when Pulse was doing really well in the first qualifier of the NACL. They went 5-0 in Swiss, they made it all the way to the semifinals, almost made it to the grand finals, but they're still here. Regardless, Will on this Jarvan was always a very big pick. As we head into the second phase of bans, AoE have not selected a jungler yet for City Widdy, which means that Pulse can start to target some of them out.
Yeah, Defy already banned away. I'm kind of wondering if there's going to be another one. Yeah, it is going to be the Amumu. Taking this away has been something that City Widdy has played fairly recently in the promotion tournament, and it's a champion that also sets up with the Magic resist Shred coming through to make sure that Cozy would be doing as much damage as possible. But it's a very strong engage core already coming through for Polestar. They're really going to have to double down on this. You can't really adjust to a different style of composition, and so AoE need to be very careful how they want to try and play around it. The Alistar is decent at punting away anything on the other side of the map that tries to jump in on top of the Ashe, but I'd really like to see them double down on more defensive combinations as the Electric Mouse does come through.
What is this, like Season 6? Got our Kennen Rumble matchup in our lane, in our top lane. I mean, it's going to be a lot of damage. It does have decent synergy with the Jarvan as you trap everybody in. Slicing Maelstrom can come out. And a good team fighting comp for Polestar that is, you know, it didn't... They kind of had a good team fighting comp in the last game, but it just took a little bit too long to get online. Now that you have this ranged top laner against Hoarder, you can potentially take advantage, as that is the signature Kha'Zix for City Widdy. We saw it against Dragoon's Goons in the promotion tournament. He's always a beast when he's on the bug.
Yeah, two of the classic picks coming through from City in the Kindred and the Kha'Zix this time around. He's got a couple of targets that he can go for, and one of the things that is nice about playing these assassins into very heavy engage compositions is there's usually someone who gets left behind, someone who didn't quite get the memo about how aggressive we're supposed to be, and this time around, they are going to be bug food coming through for City Widdy as the Nico going to be the last pick here for Onat. Now, this is a fantastic opportunity to play something more scaling, something more heavily ranged coming out for Ariandel in order to try and abuse the fact that Nico is fairly short range and also is going to be knocking up and stunning everyone that does actually jump in. I would really like to see Ariandel play something that can contribute from a greater distance, and the Syndra is a fantastic champion for that.
Single out one target and take him all the way down. The rest of the team has enough AoE damage, right? You don't necessarily need everybody to one-shot everybody. You can get Ariandel locking down a single target, whether it's Onat pushing him away with the Scatter of the Week, or just even one-shotting a City Widdy or Mobility. That is going to be tremendous value from this Polestar composition, who are kind of here to fight. I mean, a lot, right? You have Will on this Jarvan. He's going to be super aggressive in this early game against City Widdy.
I'm looking at these compositions yet again, and last game I was saying that AoE looked like they were a little gun-shy. They weren't really going for a lot of the engagers. They were really relying on Polestar to be making macro mistakes, and this time around, Polestar can force a lot of these engagers very hard. Their composition, having both the Jarvan and the Leona and the Syndra, they have a lot of range crowd control that they can actually go for. In AoE, while they do have some tools to try and neutralize the engage, they don't really have any tools to get away from the engage. There's not a lot of mobility on Onat or Mobility himself, which means that if Will jumps in, you are fighting, and you're fighting now.
Well, as we loaded game 2, make sure to spam that Twitch chat. Who do you got, AoE or Polestar? Looks like right now our NACL representatives are doing pretty well. Here's the stat, Josh, as we get into the second game. Never have there been 0 teams from the qualifiers that promote into the NACL in this promotion tournament. And right now, AoE in position to allow for both of the NACL teams to keep their spot. Again, that was not something that we anticipated coming in because AoE, you know, they went 0-9, they had all these roster changes. A team like Dragoon's Goons is looking super powerful, but now Goons is out. AoE have suddenly gelled together, and we've got ourselves a very interesting prospect moving forward in the series.
That's true. And also at the same time, remember AoE fans, you were in the game last time around, but half of you are voting for Polestar this time, so we'll see how the Grubs end up shaking out in this game. The AoE at the same time, like you said, they have been looking good when it comes to actually getting these team fights started. Just matters about how you actually start the team fights, where the fights are actually going to be going, and Polestar are the ones who have all of the control. This isn't necessarily something we oftentimes attribute to them. They love playing these scaling champions. It's not as though they have no scaling champions. They are going to be farming those Syndra Bucks in the mid lane. However, this time around, they're the ones who are going to be trying to get a lot of these fights started. And great positioning from Ariendel. Get some really strong early trading.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I still think of Syndra as being like a big early game champion where you're popping the Qs out all the time, but now it scales very, very well with those stacks.
Yeah.
And Ariendel, again, still will be able to 100 to 0 some people as we get later into this game, but you can see he's still pressuring Onat a ton on this Nico pick that we've seen him play a lot in the NACL, but has not been very popular as of late.
Yeah. Oh, already the level 2 comes through for Prismo, instantly gets knocked up, and Breezy will just walk out of that one. Some really fancy feet coming in from both sides of the map early on. There's a lot of skill shots being dodged. However, AoE, the big thing that we're going to be looking at is how does this Kha'Zix do, because it's going to really need to prey on any mistakes that Polestar are going to be making, because it's not going to be doing a whole lot proactively. It's already getting invaded by Will.
And this Jarvan at level 3 can get very strong.
Oh.
Looking towards the top bottom lane right now. Prismal has to flash away after going aggressive. Now with the exhaust on top of him, and mobility is just going to lock him down for first blood. Meanwhile, in the jungle, will fall after going for the invade, and City Widdy and AoE find themselves up 2-0 off of 2 aggressive plays from Pulse.
I'm not going to lie, Prismal going for that was a bit reportable as he instantly gets knocked up and sent underneath the turret. Sagawabi is like, wait a second, I thought I was the rookie here. That was a classic mistake coming through. Mobility finds a kill, City Widdy finds a kill, and even still has that flash available. Will must have thought that City Widdy was nowhere near those wolves, because as these kills come through, it's already nearly 1,000 gold in favor of AoE, and Prismal and Will trying to rectify their mistakes by going to the mid lane.
Onat does not get hit by the Scout of the Week and will be able to escape here. And man, I mean, it's the same thing as game 1, right? Like, Polestar just kind of handing AoE these advantages, and I mean, sure, they're going to take it, right? But I don't know how that jungle skirmish actually ended up happening, because Will should have won that.
I mean, should he? He's got the isolated damage coming through from City over and over again, so it's very difficult for him to go for it, especially if he does not land the initial knockup, which I don't know
Yeah,
if he did or not.
I don't remember exactly, because I was looking at the bot lane play, but I have a
Here goes
feeling
Will.
Will EQ'd over the wall, and then City came to take him down. So. Oh, Hoarder doesn't get the stun on the stack, forces Cozy to flash away as Will comes in with a flag and drag, but that could have been a kill if it was maybe played a little bit better.
Yeah. One of the things that I have not been thinking about for Polestar is they don't make a lot of unforced errors. They don't have a lot of pressure on them because nobody really expects them to be here, but it looks like the pressure is actually getting to them when it is do or die, when you actually have, you know, that pie in the sky that you are so close to actually finding your way to. A lot of unforced errors suddenly coming through from Polestar this time around is giving over a pretty big lead to their opponents right off the bat. Mobility already up about a wave and a half, and it should end up remaining that way as Sagewabe cleans up the wave on the bottom side. But AoE already getting a lot of advantages that they're not having to play very hard for.
And they are champions that now once they do hit those level 6 power spikes with these advantages, with these leads that they have, can continue to make some plays on their own. The problem is we haven't necessarily seen that level of decisiveness, at least to the degree that we might have wanted in that game 1. So it's still on AoE to try to make these plays, but they're in good positions to do so now. Mobility and City Widdy each have that kill. They're getting accelerated quickly in this game.
Yeah. I will say the only thing worse than playing a composition that can't engage, that doesn't have the tools to engage, is playing a composition that has to engage, but you're behind. And this is definitely a position where suddenly Polestar needs to be very judicious with all of their engagements going forward, because you can't afford to just go for fights that are not very obviously in your favor. You have to be looking for these very sure things. They do have some strong pick tools between Will, Ariendel, and Prismal, but whenever they know where you are, if it's going to be an even fight, they're definitely going to be coming at it from behind, and Will spending a lot of time on the top side, but he got spotted by a ward.
Yeah, Cozy playing very, very massively right now. Even has the arcane comment just to make sure
Oh,
poke a little bit more. This is what happens when you use the flag and drag just a little bit too early. City flashes forward and picks up kill number 2.
Yeah, City Widdy preying on the fact that Will instantly using that combination of spells and suddenly has no mobility left on the board. Another kill for this Kazakhs. Oh no! A missed Zenith Blade coming through from Prismal. Yet again, it just feels like AoE are in Polestar's head as Breezy moves towards the mid lane.
Is spotted on a ward, but might be a little bit too late for Will to get there. He has to use the flag and drag just to get to the Wolves. Breezy's on the way. Scatter the Week comes out. That is still a big wave lost in the mid lane.
Yeah, that should be a play in the mid lane. It's going to be 3 grubs going over to City Widdy. They also have control on the bottom side now, and Prismal trying to make a play on mobility, but Breezy is right there to stop it.
There's a Pulverize. Thought he was going to maybe yoink him down into mobility, but instead just a little bit of poke down as he rotates back towards his AD carry. I'm still thinking about that jungle play, man. I mean, I'm a big Jarvan player. I've had situations like this happen to me a lot. Look, as soon as Will uses the EQ, City's going in. There he goes.
Oh, there's the ult.
Shadow Assault out, and I mean, now it's 2 kills. This is going to be a bit of a long game for Will. Killing spree plus the second blue buff down. Potentially, Ariandel actually is here on the way, but he's actually in some trouble now as well. City still has the jump, still looking to go forward, and he has himself 4 of AoE's 5 kills.
City Widdy wants to be back in the Challengers League, man. That is 4 solo kills coming through for this Kazakhs in this game. 3 onto Will and now 1 onto Ariandel, just making sure that the entire map looking real easy for the rest of the squad because he's pulling members around. The Jarvan early game has completely been shut down. Ariandel trying to roam around means that Onat for free is now up multiple waves and looking to get a second turret play as well. They see exactly where Will is, and AoE, this composition that was supposed to stop any engagements coming through from Polestar, has stopped them from even playing the early game.
Yeah, I've definitely had this Jarvan moment before. It does not feel good. You're just
like, what do I do?
Tunneler longsword. I mean, this is not a position where you can ever fight this Kazakhs. I genuinely am like remembering a solo queue game that I had, like literally word for word. Like, I am Will in this game right now. Maybe City was on the other team.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it's really tough. Whenever the Jarvan is really behind, you have to get even more and more desperate, though. We were saying that they have to be very sure about their plays at this point. No, you start going for things and see what sticks. Because sometimes your opponents misplay. City Widdy already with their Umbral Glaive completed, so the map is going to get darker and darker across the board for the rest of Polestar, and now we can see City, he's hunting Will over and over again. He has an entire side of the jungle to farm. He's not interested in that at all. He's going to be farming champions.
Yeah, as soon as, he can find Will, that is when they can go in. We see Order popping the Slicing Maelstrom on a Cozy. I think it was just to clear the wave out a little bit, as the Kennen might want to go for a reset. Anti-Crystal Arrow gets sent out. I don't know where exactly you're looking for. Maybe Ariandel in the mid lane, but it was not hitting a single person.
Either way, doesn't land onto anything. It will be down for a little while. It should be up before the next dragon actually spawns. AoE have a lot of control over the board, and as City Widdy, he's not that far ahead in terms of farm, simply because he's been spending so much time looking for things, but he is very far ahead in terms of gold. As we take a look at the gold on the map, he's up 1,200 on the enemy jungler. Cozy still struggling a little bit into Hoarder, but it's only about 200 there. So they're going to be looking very good when it comes towards this next dragon. We saw Polestar get the first 2 last time around. It should be AoE grabbing the first 2.
Oh, now here comes the aggressive play. Remember, desperate times call from desperate measures, but the desperation might not even be enough. As City Widdy stuck in a 1v2, but he is still going to appreciate getting the opportunity to hunt some more champions. It's a double kill for the Kazakhs, despite Onat going down.
Yeah, at least Onat gets some assist on that last play, but City once again goes into the enemy side of the jungle. Yeah, this one's FFable at this point. This Kazakhs is absolutely massive. One of the few silver linings that we do have looking at for Polestar as they go for this play is that at least it's only one person that's fed, so if you do manage to pick him off somehow in upcoming fights, well, that's most of your opponent's gold gone. City Widdy is over 1,000 gold ahead of even the next richest person on his team. So if you do take down this Kazakhs, you are going to be in a much better spot. Just stick together, make sure he doesn't get that isolation damage, and it might be playable. But with a dragon on the board, with these Hex Tech available and an arrow going out, lands. That's a lot of damage.
Kobe on to Ariandel. There comes Breezy as well. It chunks the Syndra out, who just teleported back to lane, by the way. That dragon's going to AoE.
Yeah, that feels really bad for Syndra players right there. Anyone in mid lane is like, oh no, all of my time in the mid lane, I have to back away. I'm going to be losing even more waves. Mobility being a bit aggressive, but at the same time, the dragon going through. Does Will decide to hit the grubs?
I guess he will. Get Twitch chat away from AoE's side because they were on his side
going
last
top
time
lane.
it worked. Okay, no. Going towards Cozy instead. He has his flash. He has his ultimate. Gonna use the ladder to clear the wave out, and now there's nothing for Hoarder and Will to do.
Yeah, oh man. Will, he's going over towards this. He'll start hitting it.
I mean, don't use the EQ, man. We remember what happened last time. Don't do it. Okay. He used it to escape.
Yeah.
Still gonna get jumped on. This is like, I'm reliving so many memories of playing Jarvan in this game. It doesn't end well.
Yeah, that one was tough. Like, I like the idea. Maybe you can get away with it if there wasn't a ward right outside the pit, but unfortunately, City Widdy gets to see you hitting it, even though you use the abilities to try and escape in that last one. It didn't really matter because you can just get followed by City, who also has a flash available. All 6 grubs, both dragons going over towards AoE, every single neutral objective, and all of the plates have been picked up, also going in favor of AoE. So welcome to the AoE fan club here at Twitch chat. Let's take a look at how the plates have been going so far. Not that much. 3 going over to Onat, just 1 from mobility, but it's still the 3,500 gold lead already building up for AoE. First items are being completed kind of across the board, and Will has his, yes, but it's a Sundered Sky. It's not the most expensive item in the world.
We'll do a decent amount of damage, I guess, to a single target. And hey, a single target's kind of all you need at this point. Arrow.
They're just bullying him.
Not going to connect. I mean, hey, we did talk about Pulse's composition in the draft, right? A lot of single target lockdown if they can find somebody like City Widdy. Ariandel has the scatter. He has, of course, the unleashed power. You have Prismal, who can just continually stun people up. There are angles, but the angles are very, it's a very acute angle at this point. 2 degrees.
Now, this does bring to mind a game back when I was playing in like rec leagues with Roth and Alk Battery. There was one game we were playing up against like one of the other really good teams in the league. Rafa had about this kind of lead on a Kha'Zix and we lost. Because he tried to overforce a bunch of plays.
Okay.
I'm just saying it's possible.
So what happens in that game that AoE are going to have to do?
He decided that he was done farming his own side of the jungle, and he only wanted to farm his opponent's side of the jungle, and he would go for duels with Zac.
Okay, well, this is a start. It's not that.
It's a start.
But they do find a pick. Hey, that's single target lockdown right there. Will finds the angle. Ariandel gets the stun. Prisma shows up for good measure. Throws the solar flare on top. It's a little bit of gold that they're starting to get back.
But I have bad news. That
What
gold went to
news?
Will. He's worth money again.
He's gonna back up to 300, baby. I mean, he's probably what, like 170, 160 gold.
Yeah. Hello.
Speaking of 300, plus 300 right here potentially, as Ariandel will go down to City Widdy, who is now legendary, by the way, on this Kha'Zix.
Yeah. We also have to look at the fact that he has 8 kills and there are 3 assists on AoE. So
all by himself.
yeah. One of those assists was a bot lane play.
Speaking of bot lane plays, looking for that. The arrow actually
is he
does
on the
come out.
turret?
Cozy does not have the ultimate, but he takes the tower aggro, and Cozy will take him down. It is disaster after disaster for Polestar in Game 2.
Yeah, this game is super done. Onat uncontested the top side of the map, taking half the turret away. Meanwhile, City Widdy hitting the Rift Herald at the same time. Onat might have the flash. Maybe?
He's potentially vulnerable. Pop Blossom is in. Flag and Drag comes out. Will Onat use the ultimate?
Oh,
Will
here
use his
comes
flash.
City.
Waiting for City to arrive. Then suddenly flashes himself onto the Syndra. And now Will is trapped within his own prison as he has to flag and drag away from the Cataclysm. Cozy teleports up for a little bit of extra damage. Forces the flash away as he yeets himself out with the Blast Cone.
Hey, that's saving the not bounty but normal amount of gold that Will
Basically
now
a bounty
worth.
at this point.
Yeah. City ends up going back. He is 8-0-1, gives over an assist, and oh no, Hoarder, no flash, no ultimate. And here's Nico.
Gets knocked up right now by Breezy. escapes the Tangle Barbs, at least for now, but still gets stunned up by the cow. Here comes Leona as Prismal looking to try and save his top laner. Goes straight in onto Onat, but will still drop as Onat gets himself on the board, and now Prismal is stuck in a 1v2 of his own. Got the Herald. Thought it was going to be Baron at this point, but the game just hasn't gone on that long.
No, it's only 16 minutes in. It's a 7,000 gold lead coming through from AoE as Onat auto-attacks people to death. I haven't really seen Nikos do that since Alorum was regularly playing this champion.
Yeah.
Either way, the entire map has fallen apart. Sagewabe trying to farm. Unfortunately, that is illegal, and City is the police.
And can he do anything? No. I wanted to... Oh, that's... Oh!
Okay, that's cute.
That's the dubstep montage right there. Double jump.
Yeah.
I want to talk about City again, real quick.
Yeah.
Because the last time we saw him in the NACL, it was on Team Liquid first, as you said.
It was bad, yeah.
It was not good. We saw him get a couple of leads on things like the Karthus. I will say, I think it was put out there that he was on like 200 ping the entire time.
Oh,
And-
really? I don't remember that. but I believe
it was not good. I think he was like in Canada, like they're playing in the California servers. It just didn't work out in that situation.
Yeah.
But now look at him on AoE, and think about some of the other players on that team as well, right? One of them was Surdy, a player that
True.
we hold in very high regard. Rovex, another one down there in the bottom lane.
He's
as
gotten a lot
well.
better recently, yeah.
Hey, that Team Liquid first team. We're gonna look back at that one day and be like, yo, a lot of some decent players came out of that one.
Is LJX still doing anything?
No,
I'm looking it up.
it's not League of Legends, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, he last played for Phoenix 5, or he was coaching Phoenix 5 earlier this year, so not really playing
Yeah, that
a whole
team.
lot of the
That team didn't make
Tier 3
it
stuff.
into the top 16.
Unlucky. Either way, AoE. I mean, we will take a look in a couple of years if the Team Liquid First roster ends up being a strong one. It was definitely not City's proudest showing in the world. However, he is definitely a player that has kind of hovered in the Tier 3 scene for a while and has had some decent like proving grounds performances in the past. He's trying to find his way back. He's already proven how effective he can be on this Kha'Zix. He had a pretty good game on the Kindred as well. Now the question is going to be AoE as a whole. How gun-shy are they feeling? Can we get this one wrapped up relatively quickly before Ariandel can actually start executing the Kha'Zix with just one ultimate?
The interesting thing here, Josh, I mean, Polestar, their best looks as a team were through their mid-jungle, Will and Ariandel.
Yeah.
They are a combined 2 and 9, which means they have all the kills, but they have a lot of the death. I mean, if they want to win
That's
this
all the
game,
kills, yeah.
it's going to be a lot of the other players having to step up, whether it's Sagewabe, this young prospect. Oh
That
my
missed?
god. That should have killed Will, I'm pretty sure, but somebody's
Just
going to
instantly, he's just dead.
Someone's going to need to step up here for Polestar. Whether it's Hoarder, try to one-shot somebody, Sagewabe, starting to scale a little bit on this area. Like, not really, but we could pretend.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still, there's a lot of things that AoE can do to win this game, though. That's the most difficult part.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of damage. Is that a
Oh my
kill?
god, that's Breezy just flashing in. Pop Blossom only lands onto Prismal, and now AoE, they might have pulled her off, and they might have got a little bit too far.
Oh,
Gerald
Kha'Zix.
will come in, but it will still be AoE getting the one kill. Breezy survives, and Pulstar, still after all of that, are down a man. City, where are we going, bud? Okay, we're going
Go
bot
bot
lane. Okay.
Meow.
Can he get a charge
Oh.
off? No.
Not quite. But still, though, the fact that Breezy lives there, you know, I'm both impressed and sad because it's just like, oh man, they can't even get one. After all of that, this is definitely one of those games where sometimes I wish that like surrendering was normal in professional League of Legends because like there's nothing there. There's two ways that this can go, right? Either Polestar is laughing every single time one of them dies, or they're very quiet. And this is, as the game goes longer, it becomes more and more on the coach afterwards to be like, guys, like, we knew that game was over, like, 3 minutes in. It's
Yeah,
okay.
let's just
that-
have some
that
fun
happens.
right now.
Let's have some fun. So I really hope that the members of Pulse are actually having a good time right now because they're going to need to bounce back really hard because after this win from AoE, we're going to see a reverse sweep from Polestar, and worse than that, it has to be a reverse sweep in a fearless draft, while AoE has side selection for the rest of the series.
Not good. Not good. That
Not good.
Aurelian Soul might not be made available if that ends up happening. Let's see. Are we 9,500 gold? What was I gonna say? Oh yeah.
Baron!
Baron is available right now, and looks like AoE looking to try to start a fight in that regard. Sakawami gets hit up by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. City Widdy zoned out for now, but there comes the Pop Blossom, and Onat locks down 2. City's legendary once more, as Pulsar will crumble to the ground. It is going to be everybody going down, except for Prismal for just a little bit longer, as another full ace gonna come through. It's a triple kill as he dubsteps on us once again, and that might just be the end of the game.
Yeah, it should be the end of the game. If the game doesn't end here, the game is functionally over as AoE walking on in 12-0-2 currently on the Kha'Zix for City Widdy, but it doesn't look like the game is actually going to end. The death timers are still too short here at Grapes. We'll take another look at this last one. And Polestar, you can tell they're trying to find something onto Cozy. Prismal very clearly still trying to get something done. Unfortunately, they get trapped up in this, and Ariandel loses 2/3 of his HP from the Equalizer alone, and then the rest of the game just kind of falls apart. Prismal in the wrong position to peel for the rest of the team because he was trying to find a pick that doesn't end up working.
Think things are quiet right now in Pulse's comms?
Probably. I wonder what the all chat is like. You know,
I'm looking
I
around.
don't see a lot of.
I don't know if there's that many all chat. Like, Mobility will type if somebody types it in first. But I don't know if anybody on Polestar is the one to type first.
Prismal? Prismal's the kind of person who'll type.
Not in this. Down 20-2.
Not in this game. Yeah.
I will say, we talked to Will. Hawk got the chance to talk to Will after their series yesterday, and he said that Prismal is one of their big leaders on the team. Of course, he has the most experience, and he gave him a pep talk before going in to game number 5, I believe, against Lotus, and it actually, he said it helped inspire them a little bit. He's going to need a pretty big pep talk after this.
It's going to be a massive pep talk. We'll see if he can do his head lasso impression.
Did he again on the Hoarder? He's, or sorry, yeah, 12-0 at this point. He's got 3 full items. Got the Rally Cry Baron buff as well, by the way. And now, Polestar, they're just looking to try to find any single kill at this point. It's already Prismal dropping, as their leader will sacrifice his life for the cannons, as we'll see how AoE decides to close this game out.
Yeah. Not quite a perfect game, but it might as well be from this position as AoE closing it out in very quick fashion, not running into any of the problems that they were facing in Game 1, and that's because City Widdy, who is absolutely going to be our player of the game, has just run absolutely amok. But the game's still going here. I'm a little bit surprised that they're taking their time.
Listen to this. You said mental damage gets worse by the minute for Pulse.
Oh,
AoE,
that's true.
They know that. They know the longer that City is here farming, like champions, getting into 20 kills or something like that, like the vibe's just gonna get worse and worse. And so get the soul, make sure that you get all the towers, all the inhibitors, everything on the map.
Yeah, the montage, the longer the montage
City's got to get a full
AoE
Twitter, 2-minute 20-second Twitter clip off this.
Exactly.
This one game.
Wait, last kill is at 14 minutes? What does that mean? For Polestar? Our production is trying to tell us something.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's been a while of just Pulse getting killed instead of kills.
It's been 10 minutes since Pulse. Oh, they're gonna get a turret, an objective bounty.
Hey, that's a chunk of cash right there.
It is.
Ariandel might have his death cap when he comes back.
Oh, okay, a bit early there.
Oh, where are we going?
Okay, legitimately though, I don't think that was inherently an issue. You have to try something. Unfortunately, there are a lot of words on the other side of the map.
Oh no, it's 22-2. Get us out. Polestar is probably saying, as they are now stuck in a 5v4 with their only defense being the 2 Nexus towers. In comes Breezy. Equalizer comes out as well. Mobility gets locked up, but he's going to have to go right back in as it'll be Area of Effect Esports wiping the map once more. City Widdy on the Kha'Zix is an unstoppable force in this game. Jumping into the fountain, finally getting shut down. It's 1,000 gold in the back pocket of Ariandel, and now it's only 3 members of AoE still alive. Sakewabi burning down to the ground, but the minions are going to do it all the same. AoE's 1 game away from pushing their ticket back in the NACL.
Hey, at least Hoarder killed the Nico clone, which somehow still takes damage after the Nexus dies. But overall, man, like that was City Widdy top to bottom, just taking total control the entire time. Don't think I've seen a more dominant single player the entire time. So City Widdy absolutely the player of the game this last one. Grapes, is your cousin's internet doing all right?
I think. Oh, I'm frozen. What the heck? I'm going to.
That's okay.
Whoa! Hey.
Whoa! You know, it looks like a very nice place that you're currently in. Either way, it has been a very dominant performance. AoE opened that one, shut it very quickly, and City Widdy, not a big surprise, that is 2 games in a row where he has been the player of the game, and 14, 1, and 5, only dying at the very end. I remember counting at one point, he had at least 4 solo kills, 3 of them onto Will, 1 of them onto Ariandel. I would love to know how many solo kills he had during that entire game, because I'm going to guess it's close to double digits.
You remember, like, during, like, what was it, last year or something, where we're counting all the who had the most solo kills in the split, and it was like Lunacia had a bunch, Surdy had a bunch.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
City might have, like, if City was like in the league and this game happened, like, he might have been in the running for that one as well, because it was a ton right there for him, as him and AoE find themselves up 2-0 in this best of 5 against Pulsar. Will our qualifier representatives have some magic left, or will their pulse drop flat? We're going to send it to a break. We'll be back with game number 3.
Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost.
Welcome back, everybody, to the NACL promotion tournament presented to you by The Real Cost. Could potentially be our last game of North American League of Legends before the live NACL finals, Josh. We got a little friend over there.
Yeah, this is Oscar. He is
Oscar.
Sleepy Kitty right now. And, oh, you heard his name? Hey, bud. Anyway, he's hanging out there because he is ready to watch because it could be the last game of the day, but could also be the beginning of the reverse sweep for Polestar coming through as we take a look at the post-game breakdown presented by The Real Cost. And, you know, I think the most impressive thing about this is the fact that City Widdy did not do the most damage in the game.
And it was Onat? I mean, I guess he was poking out Ariandel a decent amount in lane, so...
Yeah, it's some big ults.
Yeah, shout out to Onat, I guess. But I mean,
yeah.
the real player, the real story of that game was City Widdy. I think he's one of the newest players to join this team as well, alongside Mobility, as they made their final roster swap that they ended up sticking with into the end of the regular season and into this promotion tournament. But I mean, Yoshi, it's been a big struggle. I was trying to think of another not as nice word. Struggle for AoE
Not as nice
this
word.
season. They've come close to winning series. They never ended up doing it. They finally won their first one here in the promotion tournament, and they're looking to win one more to get themselves back and to keep their spot in the NACL. I mean, remember, this is a team that's been a part of our ecosystem for a while. To see them bow out at this point would be pretty crazy.
It'd be pretty surprising to see them drop out from the promotion tournament, especially considering how dominant they've looked in the last two games. Game 1, there's a couple shaky moments, but they were still the better macro team the entire time. Now as we start looking towards the rest of the series, remember that as we are doing Fearless Draft, we have a lot of champions that haven't picked in Games 1 and 2 that are no longer available. And crucially, two of the ones that we have seen already come through for AoE have been City Widdy's Kindred and his Kha'Zix, two of the champions he is best known for. However, the Karthus, the other K champion that he likes to play, and the Amumu, an A champion, unfortunately, are still available for this guy.
And remember, true Fearless Draft, so not going to be able to play these champions. This is the last game that we're going to see all 10 bans get locked in for both of our teams. If AoE ends up dropping this one and heading towards a Game 4, we will not see the second phase of bans. And then if suddenly there's a Game 5, 0 bans whatsoever. Only the champions that have been picked will not be allowed to be selected. And I believe we have the draft for Game 3 ready to go here, Josh. Finally see a change. It's going to be Polestar on the blue side, so they've learned from their mistakes a little bit.
I was definitely surprised that they chose to play on the red side in the first place. It's not a side of the map where you have a lot of agency, in particular in the bottom lane, where I was kind of concerned that Mobility and Breezy were just going to be outplaying Sagawabi and Prismal. Prismal made a pretty egregious mistake at the very beginning of the game, which gave Mobility and Breezy a very easy control over the map. But as we look at the rest of the draft so far, it's been very jungle focused, with both the Ivern and the Karthus taken off the board for City Widdy, whereas on the other side, they are able to throw a Corki ban out at the same time. And I have to expect an Aurelion Soul ban will come through to make sure that Ariandel never gets the champion that he's been able to clutch out multiple games throughout this tournament with.
He's picked a B1 in the past, most notably yesterday. Or was it yesterday? Yeah, against Lotus in game number 5. So would expect AoE to ban this one out, or maybe they just let it go through, see what happens. Hey, we got a couple of games to play with anyway, and once we get to a game 5, won't be available. No, will be banned away this time. Ariandel with the Syndra in game number 1 loves to play these scaling champions, but I think we have to wait until later in the draft to see what he's going to be picking up.
Yeah, Sagawabe with the Ezreal right off the bat is a very strong pick still, but it still has a lot of things where you have to be very aggressive in the bottom side of the map. Ezreal, with the amount of mobility that he has in his kit, as well as just the damage that he can put out with the auto attacks, ends up being very strong. We do have the Kai'Sa and the Nautilus coming out for mobility and Breezy, which will give them a lot of pressure going into Sagawabe. They do have the ability to stack Plasma very quickly and hopefully take him down.
A very aggressive bottom lane locked in here for AoE. We'll see what Polestar have on the other side to match up. Potentially something like an Enchanter. I know that Prism played those a little bit, but it actually is going to be the Amumu, something that Pulse has been banning away, that is actually going to be locked in by Will this time around. Or could be Prismal, as we see the brand on B3. Yeah.
the brand coming through and the Amumu makes a lot of sense. Amumu is a character that is able to be very aggressive into the Nautilus because you do have about the same amount of crowd control as your opponents do. And like you said, because it is Fearless Draft, you do have to start thinking about this long term. AoE wants to shut this down now. They don't need to necessarily save picks, whereas Polestar, they still need to be thinking about the rest of the series if they do want to win the whole thing. But at the same time, if they drop a single game on the way, you're pulled in this weird direction, right? You want to leave everything on the table so you can continue to win games later, but if you lose this one, it doesn't really matter. So lots of pressure still coming out for the side of Polestar as the Zyra is going to be the pick here for City Widdy.
There's a lot of magic damage. We're going to see that trade of those AP junglers, not the Karthus, obviously, as it was banned away, as we head into our second phase of those bans. See, the top laners still have yet to be selected for both teams. Cozy has not been given a ton of attention this series, but he's held himself up relatively nicely against Hoarder.
Yeah, he's done totally fine. Just playing. I mean, he's been having really strong matchups up on the top side of the map, even though the Cannon is supposed to be able to neutralize the Rumble quite a bit. Cozy was still coming out on top because of the amount of pressure that City Widdy put onto the top lane. And now, as we look for the last couple of bans, the Gwen ban also targeted at Hoarder, trying to make sure that he can't get anything done. At the same time, the lack of attention towards Ariendel's champion pool in the mid lane is a little bit surprising to me. It makes me think that they're planning to blind Cozy's champion here in just a moment and then give Onet counterpick to try and shut down potentially the star clutch player for Polestar.
Still a lot of things available for him. I mean, the Azir is something that's sticking out to me right now specifically. You can counter some of that engage that the Nautilus does bring. Plus, it's one of his most comfortable champions. But we'll see what happens as we continue throughout this draft. Will they give counterpick to Onat or Cozy? Looks like the Ornn hover might signal it's going to be Onat.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense now why you are going to be banning out the Olaf and the Gwen. Want to make sure that these champions cannot just beat up on the Ornn super freely. So Cozy will be piloting this one up the top side of the map. But a lot of Hoarder's champions have already been taken off the table. So what can you do to try and find an advantage? Oftentimes the answer here has been things like the Camille.
Hey, you spoke it right into existence
there
right there, Joshi. Yeah. Going to be locked in here for Hoarder. Is primarily known as like the big carry, big side laner in tier 3, whether it was for the better or for the worse. Did get caught out a little bit in side lane sometimes. This would be an old classic, getting pulled out if it gets locked in. Looks like maybe they're looking for some more damage, but I have a feeling they might go back towards that Galio because of all the DPS that they already have in their backline.
Yeah, currently, you don't have a ton of mobility that's going to be coming out from City Widdy in particular, but it is going to be the Yone. So, we do see that this Camille having a very strong presence in the side lane later on in the game is going to be matched by the Yone. There's still a lot of tools for AoE, and AoE will scale very well. However, there's this really strong combination coming out from Polestar. You throw all your buttons, you click R on one person with everybody on your team, that person dies, and then you hope you still have enough left in the tank to win the 5v4 afterwards. AoE, though, they have some characters where that's really hard to do. Ornn, very tanky. Zyra just needs to throw all the buttons, press them all at the same time, and say, hey, I did my job, the rest is up to you guys. And that's something that Zyra is very good at.
Cause a lot of disruption with those plants as well. Things like the bandage toss or those mystic shots could get blocked by the plants. A lot of potential scenarios coming in, but the biggest scenario, of course, is the stake of this game. If AoE win, Polestar season comes to a close. Let's see if they can do it here in Game 3.
Yeah. The most impressive Galio I've also seen so far during this event has been by Rough Beans, where he was going full tank and still top damage in the entire game. But now we do see Polestar Prismal trying to find something right off the bat, but doesn't have any vision on any of their opponents, at least not in places where he can actually jump on them. So going to have to give up on that idea relatively early on. We'll see what Ariendel can do in this lane.
This is interesting. I mean, you always want to try to make sure that Zyra is not in a great position to start setting up those plants. It would slow down her clear by a ton, as we just saw her forced to flash away. Now Breezy, looking for a play on her. The other side finds the dredge line onto Sagewabe, who just does not use the flash. Now could be in a little bit of trouble, but here comes the rest of Pulse. Prismal in with the bandage toss. They got a ton of damage onto Breezy, and Ariendel will taunt up too. It's Polestar getting first blood, and Onat will have to flash away. It gets matched by Will. Will they find enough damage? He will. It's 2-0 Pulse.
Oh, It's not done. Hoarder jumps onto City Widdy.
Oh god, I mean, you want to try to disrupt this, Zyra? Well, Hoarder's doing it right here, right now. Not hitting level 2 just yet. City gonna try and go back to those Raptors, but he is losing so much time on this clear. Oh,
yeah, this
hook
is
shot
really
in again.
good.
Could this be enough damage? Hoarder, 2 more autos? No, he's backing away right now. And he's going to force City Widdy to go back to base. A very different start here in game number 3.
1,000 gold already going in favor, and Hoarder not even going top lane just quite yet. Still hanging out in the mid lane. We are going full Fiesta mode here as Hoarder looking to find a gank on a flashless Onet.
He dashes forward. Ariandel can jump in, potentially land. Okay, not gonna happen. Hoarder's buying a ton of time here. Comes in here with the hook shot, taunts up Onat. Does not have that flash, remember? But there's not enough damage on Pulsar's side. Hoarder is losing a lot here. He's gonna have to go back to base, teleport, as Cozy has already picked up an entire 2 waves.
Absolutely crazy opening coming out from Hoarder, sacrificing multiple waves, a ton of experience, and he's going to be losing out on a bunch of these minions up in the top side of the map, whereas Cozy had the time to free farm, missed a couple of those minions, but it is still a fantastic position already for Cozy. However, the rest of the map is falling apart because City had to back away in order to actually come back onto the map and be relatively healthy, and so now Cozy looking for a chance to interrupt Will, who has no flash.
He lands this knockup. Could be dangerous. Bella's Breath comes out. Will has to just run away again as Cozy bonks him on the head.
Collapse.
But here comes the rest of Polestar. Hoarder in with a hook shot once more. Ariandel on the way as well. Cozy going to try to take one on his way out, and he will, with Will dropping. Here comes the rest of the squad. Justice Punch comes out from Ariandel. Cozy's buying a ton of time right here. It might cost him his life. Might try to get another one back. Does he have the W to try to get another Brittle proc onto Hoarder? No, he will not, as Hoarder gets the kill, makes it a 1-for-1.
Yeah, Cozy not quite able to get the Bella's Breath out in time. It is going to be a 1-for-1, but this game has just gone off the rails already. Breezy's still sticking around, getting a couple of these last hits, and Prismal's like, wait a second, where is the 80k? We can't be allowing this whatsoever. Cozy teleports back top lane. This is the best start we've seen, the best position Pulse has been in the entire game thus far, the entire series, as they find multiple kills at 1,000 gold lead already. However, they're not out of the woods just quite yet. City Widdy has been able to go back and do quite a bit of farming. Onet will be able to match Hoarder later on in all of the side laning.
Oh, and now they find engage onto Prismal as well. One more Void Seeker, and that's going to do it. Mobility picking up the 2v2. Sagewabe looking for the trade, and will find it. Now it's a 1v1. Sagewabe against Mobility, Hoarder? But here comes Hoarder from the bottom lane. With hookshot in, trying to find the kill, and he will do so with the precision protocol. Hoarder everywhere except for the top lane.
Hoarder from the top rope with a steel chair is just everywhere on the map. Who needs to farm? This is... Do you remember when Jungle Camille was a thing? This is basically how you'd play Jungle Camille. You would run around the map, you would gank people, and then when there is nowhere left to gank, you'd be like, fine, I'll go farm some camps. He's doing a fantastic job, but now Ariandel getting caught potentially.
Already used the taunt, doesn't have the flash. Breezy landing the dredge line, a ton of knockups as Ariandel gets sent into the bounce house, and Onat will get on the board.
The gold lead still staying about 1,000 as Onat finds a kill, Breezy finds another assist, and everyone is everywhere on the map. The biggest thing that I'm going to be watching in this game is the strength between Onat and Hoarder, because Hoarder getting these kills has actually become fairly strong in this game. He has not been getting a lot of experience, but just making sure that he's able to help out the rest of the map has put them in a much stronger position than they would have otherwise expected to. And Polestar really needs this chaos because AoE has been out-macroing them the entire series.
Here comes City, looking for a gank on the bottom side. Was just about to say, Sagewabe looking
missed.
pretty far ahead, but the hook does not connect from Breezy, as it looks like Pulse going to stay alive for now. Now Cozy trying to get his revenge back on the top lane. All that Roman means that Hoarder is not level 6 just yet, but Cozy definitely is. But here comes Will, lands the stun, as Cozy now knows it might be a one-way trip, looking to try to find the trade. Hoarder flashes at just the right time, and will take Cozy down.
Dang, I can't believe Hoarder actually gets out of that one alive. Now Polestar are going to be the ones starting up the grubs for the first time this series. They have not gotten a single grub at all in this series whatsoever. So they finally are going to be getting 3. They still have a 1,500 gold lead in AoE. They're going to be trading it for the Dragon. And now we can see what will happen when Hoarder is uncontested in the top half of the map. Cozy looking for that 1v1, so close to getting it, but not able to get everything that they wanted. At the same time, though, Will going for a couple of these invades, and City none the wiser.
I love this from Pulse because we talked about how they came into this tournament kind of having nothing to lose. Now down 0-2 in the last series, like they really have nothing to lose, and so they decided to just do the most heinous start to the game we have seen in a long time. Hoarder playing playing River Camille, getting Sakewabe fed, Ariandel just going for all the roams on his own, and it actually has worked for Pulse relatively well as they find themselves up 1,500 gold. I don't think we could have said that at any point throughout the series so far.
Yeah. You ever have like one of those series where like, oh, hold on.
He's in trouble, but he pops the Ignite onto Breezy, but there's a ton of damage from the AoE bottom lane as well as Mobility. Really packing a punch right now. Press the attack popped on both Marksman City in the area as well. But here comes Will. Prismal gonna try to play bait here. Has that flash still available? Dredgeline will connect. No, it's onto the Brand, and that is 2 kills going back for AoE. That's a disaster as City gets right back into the game.
Yeah, no flash available for Sakewabe at this point either. A really good play coming out from City. Widdy, the double player of the game in this series. And so far, Polestar, they had a big lead, but cutting into it quite a bit as 2 kills going over towards the Zyra will give them some play later on. But watching Hoarder play so far this game is like, makes me think of, you know, back when people were playing Clash all the time. I had one friend who was like, okay guys, we are 0-2 so far. I'm going to mute and I'm just going to communicate with pings, and he would just do crazy stuff like this. And we would always win. We would never go 0-3 in Clash whenever he was on our team because he would just randomly decide it's go time, going Super Saiyan.
He locked in.
Hoarder doing a similar thing right now. So we'll see. Hey, I'm not saying he's not in comms. I'm sure he's in comms with the team.
He better be.
But either way.
Yeah. This is like when you're against like the much higher ranked top laner, and you're like, okay, well, the rest of my team's gonna do okay. Like if I just set them up, and so I'm just gonna sack the lane, go and gank everyone else, and it's worked out so far. He's down 2 waves, but he's 2-0. Polestar back to an even game state. I'll add though, as AoE have found a couple of kills back.
Yeah, but that's maybe the most impressive part. He hasn't really sacked the wave that much. Being down wave and a half right now is really impressive because he's allowed Cozy to crash big waves, but he's been able to get most of those waves when they actually jump in. And now the gold lead has gone back to even. We return to some state of normalcy across the entire map as AoE start to try and find their way back.
Oh, there comes Prismal. Flash of the Curse with that Mummy comes out, but Mobility pops the Killer Instinct, and the cleanse should be alright. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Onat getting targeted here by Will and Ariandel, using the ultimate, bouncing it off of himself, stunning up Onat. He used the Soul Unbound to come right back to potentially his doom. Will lands the E and will take the Yone down.
A very chaotic gank in the mid lane as Onat doing everything he possibly could to try and outplay that one, but Breezy, Mobility, you don't have any backup.
Mobility doesn't have cleanse, but he does have flash, locking down Breezy first. He uses the dredge line, but it does not generate enough damage as Will gets right back on the board.
And the 1,000 gold lead coming through from Polestar is there yet again, as Will finding multiple consecutive ganks, quietly becoming 4-2-2 in this game after a ton of small skirmishes back and forth on the map. I'm going to be drinking something right there, but either way, whatever he's drinking is working out.
Not for the first 2 games, but maybe this one.
Yeah, at least this one.
Start to kick in, maybe some super juice or something. Wakes him up. Gonna be pretty strong. I mean, still actually down. It's City Widdy picking up his item first. After all of that.
See that back animation. Did you see that?
No, wait, was this the Ornn?
Yeah, the Ornn back animation. He just like trundles along right on in, but the fight for the grubs coming through because he does have the teleport.
Okay, Twitch chat. This is where Games
For
begin
your
or
loyalty.
end. This is for your loyalty. Polestar looking to claim it. The teleport comes in from Cozy as he pops the call, the Forge God. Looking to lock up 2. Ariandel jumping with the hero's entrance, but he might have jumped in straight to his doom. It's 2 kills for AoE as Mobility picks himself up a double. It's going to be the True Shot Barrage to secure the kill onto Onat, but now AoE looking to hunt down the rest of Pulse. Sage Wabe has to Arcane Shift away.
But still, at the end of the day, nobody gets Twitch chat on their side.
Nope.
3-3 for the Grubs as AoE. They're fighting their way back. And one of the big things about this composition that I'm liking is it forces them to actually go for some of these fights, as they have been really avoiding a lot of the bigger team fights so far throughout the series, but this time they commit everything. And City Widdy ends up being the one who ends up getting aggressed on, but it splits the fight almost instantly. You can see with how much pressure immediately goes into the pit, that as they take down these 2 members, Onat tries to play the other side of the fight, but ends up just getting caught without his ultimate.
This is a very chaotic fight. I literally did not know who won, but now I do. It was AoE. They get
Nice.
1 kill back. And Mobility free firing that entire time, going to get stronger and stronger as this game progresses. You see he now has a bounty on top of his head. Only the static shift for now, but I have a feeling it's been a while since he's gone back to base.
Yeah, and Mobility has been a player that has been interestingly maligned so far in this split, right? Playing for Winthrop historically, not playing for Winthrop University in this series, or in this split of the NACL, but is now currently playing for AoE after being previously signed to Polestar. So a lot of drama around this player so far, but he's been one of these stronger performers on this roster, looking for a lot of opportunities to prove himself. And as he's playing this Kaisa, he has a lot of playmaking potential that generally doesn't exist on most AD carries.
And another thing about Mobility is that he's been a part of a lot of these promotion tournaments throughout his short career so far. Of course, he had that brief stint on Evil Genius's challengers at the first split of the NACL when things were going weird with the rosters, but since then he's been trying to make it back, has not been able to just yet. See Cozy getting targeted just a little bit, and AoE make the play on to the other side. Hook shot out for Hoarder plus the flash, but it might not be enough distance generated. There comes Mobility with the damage, and one more proc of the plasma. He auto the turret, but he'll still be able to go onto a killing spree.
Still will find the kill at the same time, and now he'll be left alone with the bottom lane structure. A bunch of plates getting traded back and forth across the map as Sage Wabe also gets some in the top half. No taunt going to be going through onto Onat, but still, because of how much fighting has been happening elsewhere on the map, this is a lot of plates happening all at once right at the end of the timer. And with that being the last one coming through, we see 4 of them in the bottom side, a lot of it going over to Mobility, and then a little bit being traded around between Ona and the rest of the team. But still, a lot of plays being traded right at the very end. Sage Wabe, Mobility, the biggest beneficiaries of all of this. And one of the things that we haven't really been talking about so far in this game, Grapes, is we've been looking at a lot of Dragon, how they affect teams' abilities to play. This time, AoE, they've already picked up the first 2 between all the craziness, once again showcasing that they are a better macro team overall than Polestar.
But once we get to those team fights, man, like I start to get some of that juice flowing again for my qualifier guys, right? Like, I mean, they have been able to make things work in the late game throughout this promotion tournament. That is why they are here still, and 3 of the other qualifier teams are not. See if that ends up happening around some of these next Dragons. Again, big shout out to City Widdy, who once again just got absolutely harassed in the first couple of minutes of this game by a level 1 Camille in his own enemy jungle, but he's come back very, very nicely in this one.
Yeah, 203 has the Leandri's already completed. A little bit behind where Will is, but not in a significant amount, just about 500 gold this late into the game. The Ripchild is getting started up by Pulse. Have to be very careful as Breezy still has access to that ultimate and looking for Sage Wabe to overstep.
Be engaged, Cozy, Puff Call, the Forge God will only find Prismo, but the Amumu is not that tanky and will instantly go. The rest of the fight, it's going to be a 1-for-1 Hoarder coming in, looking for somebody, finds X-Tech Ultimatum, but it's only on a City Widdy. Here comes the hero's entrance. Ariandel looking to enter the fight, but he doesn't do a ton of damage. Remember, he is mostly tank at this point. Lands a taunt in onto Cozy. There comes Mobility onto the back line. Flashes to try and lock down Sage Wabe, and will not be able to find it just yet. One more of the Acathian Rain will put Mobility on a rampage.
And finally, we're seeing Mobility. He takes down his counterpart in Sage Wabe. That's a big bounty going through as a teleport comes through from Cozy.
Still looking. I mean, he doesn't have the ultimate anymore, but it at least will force Will and Ariandel away
Get the ward.
for the moment. Plus 30. Okay. might not be worth it, but here we go. Still in trouble. Breezy on the way to landing the dredge line, buying time for City Widdy, but Ariandel still will find the kill. Another teleport has come in as Sagewabe looking to rejoin the fight. Prismal lands the bandage toss. City Widdy goes down again. There's 23 kills in 16.5 minutes.
What was that? What was that teleport going through from Cozy at the end? You won the fight. Calm down. It's okay. We end up seeing the top lane turret get picked up by Hoarder as he backs away, goes down towards the bottom lane, and the second teleport coming through from Cozy ends up baiting both himself and City Widdy into their death. This is a very ultra-reliant team. You already used the ult the first time around. And this time, Pulse come out ahead of the second part of that fight. But crucially, the biggest winner so far in this game has been Mobility. He ended up picking up the bounty off of Sagewabe in that last fight. Still the richest member on the entire field. And with a minute left before the upcoming Dragon, he's going to be on at least 2 completed items and might have an opportunity to get another component, putting him far ahead of the curve.
Mobility 5, 1, and 3 at this point. And again, back to what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago. This guy on Winthrop for a couple of splits. They've made it to the promotion tournament multiple times, but they just weren't able to get the final series. They've made it to this series a couple of times, and Mobility was on both of those teams, but whether it was to Blue Water or I forget who, or was it, I think, Lit in the last time around on Winthrop. Like, it has not gone his way, but he's really looked good this promotion tournament. He enjoyed his time in the NACL. I mean, he didn't end up winning any series, but he definitely had some really solid performances. And he wants to make sure he stays this time around.
Yeah. Now as the Red Charlotte gets dropped by Polestar, Ariandel just waiting in the wings.
Oh, here comes Prismal 3! Man, curse the sad mummy! It's going to be followed up by Ariandel as well. AoE are so low, but still nobody has died. Breezy buying so much space as Hoarder jumps in with the ultimatum. But here comes the Fate Sealed. Onat looking to try and get something back, but it's still a 2-1 for Pulse.
A very chaotic fight yet again. Mobility and City Widdy having to go in different directions to try and stay alive. Pulse will find themselves their first dragon and even up the gold. A very chaotic game. Nobody has had more than a 2,000 gold lead in this game so far. And Pulse, they end up defending the mid turret at the very least. Still a lot of money onto City Widdy, but you have to be careful.
Oh, and maybe in some trouble right here. Sagewabe looking for the kill. Will he find the skill shots? No. Not just yet, and now Sagewabe might have gone a little bit too far forward himself as Breezy has arrived. Arcane shifts away from the dredge line. He's alright.
That was a psychopathic dodging direction coming through from City Widdy. Not going to get hit by the True Shot Barrage, but he's just like, what if I just went left instead of going underneath the turret? Ends up dodging out on enough skill shots, but great
really
engage
nice
coming through from Pismal with the Flash ultimate, bringing multiple members in, and you can see that Cozy never actually gets to throw out his ultimate whatsoever. City Widdy gets in less than stellar ultimate off on his own, but because every single one of these ultimates and every single one of these flashes used defensively, they get crushed.
Well, it looks like we're not going to stop fighting here, Joshi, as the Hoarder goes in, but it's going to get ignited down. City Widdy picking up the kill with the Leandri's burn. That was just a little bit too far forward from Pulse. They spent so many resources top lane. It allows for Onat and for Cozy to push into these lanes and get even more gold into their own pockets.
Yeah, this is a disaster coming through from Pulse. They devote so many members to the top side of the map. They end up losing the fight, and they're losing a ton of pressure across the board as well. The mid lane turret falls. The bot lane turret might fall before any response comes through. Hoarder not going to be up, not going to have the teleport available, and Ariandel is, but he teleports topside to try and make a fight happen.
Of course we do, because we're in tier 3, baby. We like to go for fights. That's all we do. Breezy in some trouble as well.
Counter.
5% HP. Here comes the 2 teleports. The top laners are arriving, but here is Onat as well. Sagewabe first getting the kill, and now Mobility is in a terrible position, going to be left out to dry, and Joshi is 20 minutes, and 2 members of AoE are down. The Baron could certainly be on the table.
Oh, but there's so much poke coming out from City Widdy. They potentially have the damage. see what City can do.
Rainbow Thorns come out. It's going to be a 3v5. Onat still has his ultimate and his flash. Dashes forward, trying to find something. There comes Prism with the ultimate, and this! Already everybody going down. It's a double kill in for Will. Pulsar aren't done just yet. The Baron's at 5k. Onat's healthy, but there's 4 members of Pulse here to defend. Prismal gonna buy as much time as he can, and it'll cost him his life, but it's Pulsar picking up the Rally Cry Baron buff.
Oh no, it's not done though. He still has the ultimate available.
Okay, not going to use it. Just backs away with the tether, trying to cancel these backs, buy as much time as possible. There's no teleports available for any of his teammates to arrive. And so they'll let Pulse go back to base with the empowered recalls and with the gold lead back in their hands.
This game is insane, Grapes. This might be the most entertaining game of League of Legends I've seen in a while. And it's every bit as good as Team Liquid FlyQuest, especially seeing how that series actually ended. But Polestar, they have an incredibly powerful jungler. They have an incredibly powerful marksman as well, and they've been able to put out the deeps so far in this game. Will, 8-2-7, has 2.5 items completed, and also Sagewabe, he's been able to use the power spike of the Trinity Force and Muramana so effectively, and Breezy, okay, not going to be going for any engages right now, but people teleporting back and forth, and we see how much Polestar can get done with the remainder of their Rally Cry Baron buff.
Brought it back a little bit, but you take a look now, it's still 1.5k. That's exactly the amount of gold that is given to you once you kill the Baron. So Pulse have not done anything in terms of picking up structures just yet, finding opportunities to look for fights. But it will be up until that next dragon spawns, and if you're Pulse, avoiding AoE from getting that soul point would be big.
City being the only person down here is a bit of a mistake coming through from AoE, not the person who can do anything about this structure, but there's a counter push coming through in the top lane and in the bottom lane. It might be more structures going down for AoE during their opponent's Baron buff. They get the mid lane turret, they're transitioning topside, and Polestar, they don't have teleport coming out from Hoarder,
They're just
so
gonna
they're
keep
just gonna
going.
go for a race.
I mean, Hoarder is a Camille. Camille's do a ton of damage to turrets, and there is a Baron buff on their side. Should work out, and now AoE actually trying to get back to defend their own base as the ultimate comes out from Will. Call the Forge God as well. Meanwhile, Hoarder and Sagewabe still pushing in the bottom lane as AoE are just going to try to get someone back to defend. It should be an inhibitor going down at the very least. Ariandel not done just yet, though, and here comes Will on the flank. Finally, some backs will be channeled, but Pulse, they're still looking. Oh, they cancel! They cancel Breezy's back. It'll only be mobility. Still alive right now in the base to defend. They will take Breezy down. Will goes godlike, and there's still a fight going on. Ariandel buying so much time as a teleport has come in from Sagewabe. Look at Prismo, looking for the bandage toss. We'll find it out of City. Has the ultimate at the ready, but not going to use it just yet. No, sorry, he does not. And now Cozy in some trouble as well, but he will be able to blast cone out and actually send Prismo over the wall. Not going to be enough damage yet. Here comes Hoarder, though, with the ultimatum. They'll find the kill on a City Widdy, and this game has got off the rails.
Mobility?
Gonna dash in, Killer Instinct. Sagewabe will be able to flash away. Hoarder with a hook shot over as well. Here comes Cozy still looking, and he will be able to survive. What's happening right now, Josh?
It's not the way that you're supposed to be seeing it. Also, this is one of the best things I've seen in a long time. Either way,
okay, that's
it's
good.
not the way that we were supposed to see the gold lead expand off of the Rally Cry Baron buff, but it's the way that it did blow up. They're now a 3,000 gold lead in favor of Polestar, the biggest gold lead they've had this entire series, and the biggest gold lead we've seen so far this game. They'll grab themselves another dragon. But we are seeing that this game has become absolute chaos, back and forth, and everybody just opting in for every fight possible in the series. And Polestar, as they go for every single one of these, they're catching out Cozy quite a bit in all of these fights. But importantly, here, Grapes, we do have the Masterwork items starting to come through. The first one has been completed onto Cozy. Now he has to split a little bit. They need to put some more resources into the orange so he can actually get the levels so he can build more items for his team.
Oh, Onhat barely going to be able to escape using the Fate Seal to do so. All of a sudden, let's take a look at some of the score lines on Pulse right now. Will, 10-2-7, has 3 full items. Sagewabe does too as well. Remember, when Sagewabe was put in a position where he had an advantage in game number 1, did not go the best for him. This time, he's doing a lot to keep his team alive and keep their season afloat.
Yeah, this Ezreal has been working wonders as well. So, as we see AoE, you're down a lot of members. You don't necessarily want to be going for any of these fights. They get a lot of damage down onto Hoarder, but at the same time, Cozy in the bottom side is going to be leveling up.
Prismal underneath the tower. He's an absolute maniac. Mobility already used the cleanse. He has the flash away as well. Teleport coming in from Cozy to defend, and it will be AoE not losing a member, but they use a hell of a lot of resources to do so.
Yeah.
Oh, the ultimate.
Oh my
Sage
God.
Wabe from downtown picks up the snipe.
I didn't think that was going to kill him, even if it hit, but the fact that mobility goes down, it's just a little bit of extra gold. But AoE, they were doing a really good job. They got another level onto Cozy off in the side lane while Polestar were trying to find these fights. That means another masterwork item going to be coming through, probably for Onat, because mobility is still dead for a while. But regardless, that's another bit of gold going through for AoE. So this game still very much up in the air, but because these fights have become so chaotic, it's allowing the extra crowd control and the better ability for Polestar to pick their targets to really come through as a massive advantage for this team.
And they're still looking for fights. I mean, if they spotted anybody, you already know Prismal is popping the bandage toss and going right back in. And here's the problem now, Josh. In a 5v5 situation, this Brand is going to do so much damage. Once he has his Pyroclasm available, he just pops the ultimate, hits every single member. You get the passive mark starting to go as well, and it becomes very hard for AoE to do anything. Even though, you know, some members of AoE are strong, like Will can just wreck a team fight on his own.
We'll see how Will ends up playing this one. AoE, they are still playing both of their solo laners off in the side lanes, and crucially, Pulse is not going to be starting up the Baron. A little gun shy yet again. This was a big criticism we had of AoE. But Pulse, they're moving right on back. This is tough to do without an Ezreal.
Gonna start it up at least for now. Maybe trying to just bait a teleport. Yeah, Onat gonna use his. And that is now when Pulse starts to peel off just a little bit. Here comes Prismal, finds the engage just onto Breezy. Its True Shot Barrage goes out. And Polestar will now look to kite away from the Baron, and AoE will not look too hard for an engage.
Yeah, we were giving a lot of credit to mobility for the...
That was risky right there. Cozy could have just pressed E and just knocked everyone up.
But we were giving a lot of credit to mobility earlier in this tournament for the number of Void Seekers he was able to hit, even over the course of a single fight. Not been hitting a lot of them so far this time around, so he's not been getting the resets on those either. But AoE, they do stop the Baron. They buy themselves a little bit more time. And as this game does get later, you have to remember the Yone and the Kai'Sa very strong. As Breezy needs to flash.
It's a big cooldown. That's a big point-and-click crowd control spell that will not be available here for AoE Esports for the time being. As Polestar still trying to control this Baron pit. Haven't started the objective up yet. Mobility now hits a Praise Seeker. Still got that Dragon though, spawning in less than a minute, and that will be when both of these objectives are up at the same time. You have the potential for a split map. We have the Inhibitor respawning in the bottom lane as well, as Ona has to clear that wave.
Yeah. Onat's okay with that, right? He is still playing this Yone. He is still going to be getting stronger and stronger. He has not had a lot of time to just build up a lot of damage items. He's been very focused on getting to every single one of these fights, but you can see he's got the most farm in the game by a decent margin. He's already up 60 over everybody else in the game. Every single time I see this back animation from Cozy, like, it's just so good.
Just like
Well, either way, like, Onat is still getting stronger. Little penguin, yeah, kinda.
Penguin.
Yeah, he's just waddling along. Cozy needs to get level 15.
Is it tradition now for us to just, for the broadcast of different North American broadcasts, to suggest new Ornn skins? Because I got an idea.
Yeah, Penguin Ornn. Either way, we got a Baron startup yet again. Cozy has an item for someone.
Who's it gonna go to? Maybe not anybody just yet. As
Should be Onat.
Polestar, they peel off the Baron, as Mobility doing a ton to poke out Ariandel specifically. He's at half HP, has to go back to base, does have the teleport if AoE decide to start up the Dragon, which Onat is going to do right now. We see Hoarder pushing on the top side, and it looks like Pulse might try to just give this Drake up to gain pressure in other areas of the map.
Yeah, this is the first time we've seen Pulse really do this, but there's a lot of pressure from AoE matching towards the top side, so Cozy should be able to defend, if not the second tier turret, then definitely the third. Mobility's around the corner.
Oh man, I thought Hoarder
Plasma!
might be in a bit of trouble right now. Call the Forge God comes out. Knockup connects. That means that mobility can go in. Will he do so? Yes, he will. Killer Instinct forward. Hoarder does not have the hook shot anymore, and he will go down for trying to push onto the top side. Mobility picks it up with a W, and now Pulsar trying to push bottom as they kind of separated Onat a little bit, but with the member down, that's no Camille for Pulse. So AoE might try to start up the Baron themselves.
Yeah, this is really scary because you don't have the rest of your team coming through. Onat is running up. He's going to be late to the fight.
Would be a good flank if they can buy enough time, but right now Breezy can't join his team. The Baron is starting to melt, but it would be a numbers advantage for Pulsar if they decide to go into the pit without Onat arriving just yet. He has his flash. Here comes Ariandel, trying to deny, trying to poke, but the Baron will go over to AoE Esports. Now can they get away? City flashes over the wall, and mobility dangerously low, but the Tangle Barbs will force Ariandel to go back to base, and AoE get themselves the Baron.
A lot of damage on the Baron was tanked by mobility, but ultimately he is able to get out of this one as a Crypt Bloom completed, looking to build a Rabadon's Death Cap as the next item at the same time. The gold lead still falling back towards AoE's favor a little bit, only 500 advantage of Pulse, but as the Dragon goes the other way, the biggest story right now is the fact that Cozy has built Masterwork items already for City and Mobility, and at level 16 he should have one available for Onat next time they find themselves in the same place on the Rift. They are getting a ton of extra gold, so the gold lead is lying to us a little bit based on how much effective money is on the other side.
Interesting that they upgraded the Static Shiv instead of something like the Rage Blade, but it was just stats nonetheless at this point, so a lot of effective gold in AoE's pockets, and Pulsar know it. They know they can't let this team scale too much more. Hoarder, hook shots forward, looking for something, but not going to find the engage just yet. All of a sudden, that Sage Wabe going down, and the rookie might have just cost Pulsar the series. There's the Fate Sails coming out from Onat. It hits all four, and AoE are going to run away with this team fight. They've already gotten 3. It's a triple kill for mobility, and they send themselves straight down middle lane.
The Rally Cry Baron buff might come through. Sage Wabe, one of the best substitutes we've seen in this tournament. However, at the very end, the experience comes through. AoE punish him as hard as you possibly can. It's going to cost them the entire game. A 3-0 by AoE.
Salute once again to the own nation as for the first time both NACL teams will retain their spots. No promotions allowed in the promotion tournament as it'll be AoE Esports taking down Pulse 3-0.
I'm just really glad that last game was as entertaining as it was because Hoarder really just threw a wrench into that one, and we got to see a lot more gameplay coming through over and over again. We'll take another look at this last replay, and this is the curse of what happens when you don't have enough vision on the other side. Sage Wabe trying to chase down what he thinks is an isolated breeze, but as he takes the hook, watch as all the damage comes through. He gets caught, and as the Call of the Forge God catches 3 people, the Brittle is there as Onat jumps on in. A ton of crowd control. Nobody can move, and you can see a bunch of people not able to throw out their buttons whatsoever. Triple kill goes over to mobility, and then the game instantly ends.
You could see the desperation there on Pulsar, trying to find one last fight to save their season. Go a little bit too far forward. They run straight into the meat grinder that is AoE. Onat just wiping through everybody with that Fate Sealed, but I don't know. If I had to get a player of the game, who are you giving it to, Josh?
I don't know. That one's tough. I'm leaning towards mobility.
Yeah.
He had a really big impact on that whole game, but as we take a look at the post-game breakdown presented by The Real Cost, we can see that was definitely the most exciting gold graph we had coming out in this series. We had a lot of leads going through for Polestar over the course of the game. Fortunately, they did not culminate in a win coming through, and like you said, both former NACL teams remain NACL teams going into 2025.
And hey, let's give that player of the game to mobility because hey, he finally did it. He finally won a promotion tournament. Sure, it was from the top going down this time, but shout out to him having a good performance on this Kaisa, doing a ton of damage for his team. You see, City Widdy could have maybe given himself a position for that as well, but really, really cool stuff from him. Love the growth that we've seen out of this player as we've gone throughout his career. He's looked right on the tippy top of getting his way into the NACL, gets this opportunity on AoE, and he's made the most of it.
looking forward to seeing how they do in the next season of Challenge League and how much of this team will still be intact. AoE, like we said, had a bit of a tough run of it last time, but it's okay as long as you have another chance to come through. Mobility in particular, now a player that has a lot of hunger, a lot of drive to continue competing. So really good job in this last game to showcase that it's more than just City Widdy can perform in this tournament.
Well, congratulations to AoE for keeping themselves in the Challengers League for the 2025 season. We've got a couple of interviews to do. As we set that up, we're going to throw you to this short break.
Psst. Hey, did you know that kid is vaping the same toxic chemical that's used in taxidermy? Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde?
Formaldehyde.
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 Formaldehyde. Formaldehyde.
Here's a fact that'll stop you in your tracks. Teens who vape can be exposed to toxic chemicals like formaldehyde. Know the real cost.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Rally Cry post-game interview. I am here with the mid laner of Area of Effect Esports, Onat, as he has qualified his team back into the Challengers League after a 3-0 win against Polestar. Onat, let's start with that last game. As you guys finish off that last fight, you land that 4-man ultimate and walking down the mid lane. What's the reaction from the teams in the comms? Is it really happy, or is it more relief that you ended up surviving?
A bunch of like, yeah, let's go, picking my ult. Everyone's going crazy, you know. We're just happy that we bounced back and we're done with it, you know. That we showed and made a statement.
Yeah, I mean, looked very, very good against these qualifier teams. Just really quickly, what were your thoughts about the teams coming through the OQs? Because you played on an OQ team for a split in the summer before coming back to join AoE. Did that competition or that experience, you know, do anything for you as you went into this promotion tournament?
I feel like the overall strength of the OQ teams is kind of like it's fallen over the years. It's like we weren't too nervous going in. I played in OQs before many times. I think back when I was playing it on Supernova, the competition was a bit stronger. But, you know, we didn't underestimate them. We know that there's like a few really good players on these teams. And we went into it with zero underestimation and just know that we have 5 better players, not just like, you know, 1 or 2, and we're a stronger team overall. So no, not really. No pressure. No fear of anybody.
Yeah, love the confidence coming in. But talking about those players, I mean, this is an AoE roster that looked very, very different from the one even from last split, or even for a couple of weeks ago. I know you were a part of kind of both the bookends of this split for the team. What was it like coming back and you know, building up this group of 5 players specifically after you guys had a bit of a rough regular season to come back so strong for the promotion tournament?
I mean, at the end of that third game there, when we were all talking to each other, like we mentioned something like related to this, is like if we had this starting roster from the beginning, we feel like we could have made it pretty far, even in Academy, in NACL. So this roster iteration was definitely like the most fun to play with. There was no beef between anybody, you know, it was just good vibes, and everyone who wants to like play is like here to improve. So I think like I actually really enjoyed playing on this iteration. I'm upset with what happened at the beginning of AoE. To be honest, I was brought in pretty late and the roster was questionable, but this roster was good and we made a bounce back. So I'm just happy.
Well, let's talk about you for a little bit, Onat, because, you know, going into this split, there were some questions about whether you're going to be playing again for the summer 2024, but now, you know, you guys have made it back into the NACL, at least with this team. What's next for you as a player or as a person?
I already retired once. I'm not trying to unretire again, but I think this time it's for sure that I'm out. And, you know, with school, I'm like a term away from finishing, and I'm going to be working in the winter, which is going to be the next Academy split. So my chances of playing are really low. I don't want to play Academy again. And unless there's like an LCS opportunity, which after this split on AoE is like next to 0. So I'm probably out. I think from now on, I'm just going to coach. I'm coaching the University of Waterloo this year.
Let's go.
I'm not going to be playing on the team, just going to be coaching individuals and teams, and who knows, maybe I'll join OQs as a coach. I might do that, it might be fun, but we'll see.
Well, you got a lot of experience playing in both Tier 2 and Tier 3. We're looking forward to seeing what is next for you, Onat. Before you go, maybe for the last time as a player, you got any words to share with the stream or to anybody before we bring it back to Josh?
Yeah, don't ping me in solo queue. Everybody that I get on my team, I will run it down, and there's no repercussions now because I'm not a pro player anymore. Shout out to my girl, Jess. Shout out to my family. Shout out to every single teammate I played with. I made a lot of connections in League. I met so many people over the past two and a half years. So yeah, shout out everyone that I've ever interacted with. That's a kind person.
All right, thank you so much, Onat. We're looking forward to seeing what's next. One last salute to the O Nation as we bring back Yoshi to talk about AoE as a whole. Hey, they made it back, but you know, Onat, he's got nothing to lose at this point. He's not a pro player anymore.
Yeah, that was a pretty good Dunzo manifesto there at the very end. Don't at me. I don't care anymore. I've done my stint. I know what's up. It's time to move on to bigger and better things. So congratulations to Onat on making it back, and wish him the best in his upcoming tenure as the coach over at what was it, Waterloo. So it's going to be a very strong team. I'm really excited to see what they end up doing with it, but still a very tough position to find yourself in, where we've seen what can happen with all of these very long tenures that people have in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 space, and how difficult it can really be going back and forth every single time.
Yeah, I mean, even though Onat might have stepped away, at least for the time being, still a lot of really promising players on that roster that I'm sure are really happy to be back in that NACL spot. But let's pull up one more interview we have with the mid laner for Pulsar. It's going to be Ariandel coming in to chat with us for a little bit. Ariandel, first, condolences on the loss, but thank you very much for coming here and talking to us. First, let's talk about that series. What were your expectations after going through this crazy lower bracket run, and what went wrong against AoE in this series?
I mean, I think definitely expectations going in, I think we were pretty confident in our ability to have a good showing, I guess, especially after yesterday. I think we had momentum and we had good vibes. I think team spirit was high and everything, so we really all expected to have a good series, and I think to some extent that confidence might have blown a little bit into overconfidence. I think people were not as stable as they usually were today. I think nerves were definitely there a little bit, and things got hectic at times on the Rift, and it kind of showed our gameplay was not up to the standard that I think we've been showing up until this point in the rest of the promo tourney.
I mean, yeah, you guys looked so good in the lower bracket run that you guys had, even taking a game off of Dragoon's Goons in that first round, which, hey, I remember cost me a little bit. I appreciate you calling me out on your video after that. But it's been a really great split from you on Polestar. You know, you've been around the space for a while. You've played on a ton of different teams. What's something that you did in this split that you thought really set you apart from some of the other, iterations or teams that you've been a part of, and why? Do you think that you have a good shot of continuing to, make it to promotion tournaments and make it to the top like this?
Yeah, I think this split in particular, I think what set me apart was, I think, my work ethic and really just like being willing to reach out to just like as many people in the scene as possible, like trying to just get as much help as I can from like just anyone who's willing to teach me, I guess. And then what that kind of translated into was like I actually did a lot of 1v1s this split against a lot of NACL mids. So shout out to like all the NACL mids who were down to do 1v1s with me. It was like Spirax did 1v1s with me, Bradley did 1v1, Shochi, Sammykin, Toasty, like all of the NACL mids. A lot of them were down to 1v1 to work with me to answer questions that I had. So really shout out to them. I think that really helped me grow a lot this split. And then also shout out to Kelsey. She was a great help to me. I reached out to her as well, asking for like review and like what I can be doing better. And so she was working with me throughout this whole season. And yeah, I think just like, and then so just me being willing to reach out to people, and then me also being willing to put in the work to just work on whatever I can do better. And yeah, I think it really showed in my growth this split this season.
Yeah, it definitely did. It's you were a big part of why Polestar, both got into this promotion tournament and also had the big run that you guys did end up having. Before I give you your shout outs, is there anything that you want to say about your plans moving forward for 2025, whether it's, with League or without League, or what's next for Ariandel?
Yeah, I think I will take a little bit of time to really figure out that for myself. I think this year, especially with my move to Chicago, and just like I really wanted to see how far I could go this year, and that would kind of be like my benchmark, I guess. Or like this year, if I just really give it my all and like really like put everything on the line, like how far can I go? And so I guess like it's time for me to do a bit of like reflection and like introspection, see like what do I want to do moving forward. Because I think it's definitely not out of the cards for me to do another year. And I think like you said, like I've grown a lot, I've turned a lot of heads. I think there will be interest in me in the off season. At least I would hope so. I hope other people also recognize how much I've grown and all the work I've put in. And yeah, so I guess it really will just be seeing what I want to do and seeing what interest is out there going next split. Because I think ideally I want to play in NACL next year. So that's my goal.
Ariandel, I will say, like, it was really fun getting to watch the entirety of your year, from what it was Gentle Hearts in the spring to here on Pulse now, and we're looking forward to seeing what is next for you. Before we close out the show today, any last shout outs, any message you want to give to the stream?
Yeah, I definitely want to shout out my team and everyone on Pulse. I think like really this last 2 weeks of going into promo tourney, like everyone really brought it together, really tried to hash things out, and I think we grew so much and we bonded so much as well. And like it really felt like a team, like almost like a family. Like everyone really wanted to win, everyone just had each other's backs. And even though we fell short today, I think like everyone should be really proud of how far we've come. And I'm also just really proud and really grateful and really happy to be able to play with them. And then I also want to shout out just like everyone who's helped me this whole split, this whole season. I think like definitely I could not have gotten to where I was today without all the people who support me, and like not just people in the scene, but also like my friends and league friends and IRL friends, like my family. Like everyone was watching my series, watching my run, and like sending me messages, cheering me on, and giving their condolences for the rough games. And like I just feel so much support, and I'm just so grateful. And I just want to thank everyone, and also like thank everyone to like who watched my vlogs on on Twitter, and like just supported me in my run, and I just want to say thank you. I'm so grateful to everyone.
Well, thank you, Ariandel, for such a great interview and also such a fun split this year in the mid lane. Wishing you the best of luck moving forward as we send it back to Joshi to close out the promotion tournament and close out the last remote broadcast of this NACL year. We got the live finals tomorrow, Josh. I'm sure you're going to be there, but a really fun way to close things out. Let's take a look at the bracket really quick to just see all the positions of our promotion teams. And it was the NACL reps that ended up on top.
Yeah, CCG with a fairly clean close out to it, 2-1 over the Ducky Getters and 3-0 over AoE, whereas AoE took a little bit of a longer path to get here, beating Dragoons Goons, losing CCG, but then 3-0ing Polestar, and it was a very emphatic ending to the entire season. And one of the big things that Onat said is he felt like the gap was bigger, or has continued to get bigger, between the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 scenes. I feel like this tournament kind of shows that is very true. With how close Lotus and Polestar really were, they still were not able to come up and actually take down AoE. So ultimately, potentially a bit of a disappointing tournament for some of the people who are fans of the OQ system, but still a very promising tournament for how much talent there still is in the NA ecosystem.
Yeah, from somebody who's watching a lot of the Tier 3 split, both here in the summer and back in the spring, definitely agreed that coming in, the qualifiers were a little bit weaker, but still surprising to see teams like Dragoons Goons end up falling short when they have players like Array, like Kizno, like Daption, who had so much promise in the NACL in the spring split. And it ended up just being that this time around, it's the right teams ended up falling into place. I do also appreciate what Onat said in that he thought that the players that were on that AoE team, if they stuck together for a whole split, maybe they'd have some more success. I mean, I'm inclined to agree with them with how well they continued to play as they were a unit for longer.
And I also think it's important to note that as players like Onad decide to move on, it is important that players like Ariandel are coming on in. We see some of the old guard moving on and some of the newer faces looking for their opportunities. So there's always going to be more people coming through with lots of opportunities for these strong players to try to prove themselves. But as we start getting ready to close it out, Grapes, it's time to pay the bills with the Samsung SSD Fast 5 coming through as we take a look at everybody doing the fastest things possible. And I got to give a shout out right now to Enthralled. I always immediately look towards the fastest ADC kill, minute and 14 before the waves have even crashed. That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, that's just a Ducky Getters moment right there. Of course the Ducky Getters get a kill in like the first minute because they'll do a ton of different chaotic things, and that's what I love taking a look through this Samsung SSD Fast 5. So many new players that had their first really big opportunity and took advantage of it, whether it's Rough Beans in the mid lane here for the Ducky Getters in his first ever OQ, same with Dr. Calculus, or even somebody like Mixture who was around last year but comes back in. They all, despite not qualifying into the NACL, I think made big strides in their gameplay, and I'm excited to see what they have moving forward.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of strong players who are moving up and some new names. I think Rough Bean showing up here with the fastest legendary as well. Another very exciting shout out to a player that unfortunately did not qualify this time around, but there's still a lot of pressure coming through from new teams. I love the fact that we get to see players like Dr. Calculus, Enthralled, and unfortunately Bio not quite making it onto this list, who have a lot more growth left to do, and putting them in situations where they are going to have to prove that they are ready for that next level of competition.
And that all will happen, of course, in 2025. But there's still a ton of League of Legends left to go in the developmental space. We have the NACL Finals tomorrow in the Riot Games Arena. And of course, that Tier 2 Americas tournament that's coming in. Dragonsteel and Fear, they're going to have to go international for the first time. But a big shout out to our entire production crew here at Loadscreen and for Rally Cry for supporting the NACL broadcast this entire year and doing a heck of a good job at it as well. And Josh, thank you so much as well. It was a lot of fun. finally
You've been
got
dodging me for a while.
for everyone that's not behind the scenes, Josh and I were scheduled to cast together a ton throughout this year. Just never ended up lining
Just
up.
never happened.
We finally got it, and that's good. That's great.
Well, with that, then it is time to start closing out here, Grapes. It's been a lot of fun. We've got to see a lot of great games. We got to see a really cute cat right here, Oscar, who is still the eepiest of kittens. But with that, we are going to be throwing it over with a raid towards depths here in a moment as we let you close it out.
All right. Well, thank you very much to everybody who has tuned into the NACL all year long. Tuned into Tier 3 at any point, and of course, watched here in the promotion tournament. Go check out Depths, and we'll see you tomorrow for the grand finals.